Please, Dr. Kushner.
And stay with us, please. We're going to go right now to Larry Hoff, our reporter down in Lower East Side, and find out what he's doing there. Larry, what's going on? Larry, can you hear me?
And it's Larry Hoff live from the side of City Hall here. We're just south of Chambers Street, and you're looking at the scene. Let me set the stage for you this morning. You're looking at the dust and ash billowing from where the trade towers used to stand here. This seems to be the staging area for the fire department. We've seen hundreds of firefighters walking into the area as commuters and workers are making their way out from Broadway and down towards the financial district. By the thousands, people have been parading by foot over the Brooklyn Bridge. We're hearing a number of large booms coming from that area. We can only guess what is going on. Right on the edge here, when the winds change, the ash and dust will be coming our way. We have these respirators ready for us. But you can see the giant clouds coming out of the region. And we're seeing just dazed people walking by, many covered in ash. Where did Ruby go? Ruby, come over here, please. And John Fine, come and join us, please. John's in the live truck. Come and join us. Ruby, you're from?
New Jersey.
I know. Now, I know this is going to be difficult. You were on Broadway Street.
Yeah, I was on Broadway.
This is after the jets had crashed into the towers. What happened?
Well, I was just a group of people. A lot of people were just standing there watching the fire. And then all of a sudden, the buildings start dropping. And it just went.
What'd you do?
Everybody started running because you could see the black, I guess that's from the debris and everything, coming towards you. And at one point, it just hit us, and I just closed my eyes and closed my mouth and just hoped. It was like an avalanche being buried alive.
How'd you get out of there?
I just waited until I could see a little.
Ruby, take your respirator. What's your last name?
Corner.
Now tell everybody, where's your hometown?
I'm Bloomfield.
Tell everybody you're all right.
Oh, I'm fine.
I know this is really tough. Let's just hold on. John, come here. So what happened to you? John Fine with our crew. Now, John was really at the top. I know it's difficult, but if you can.
All right. There was what looked like a third plane. I thought there was a terrible noise. It sounded like a plane very low. Then there was the explosion. And again, like the lady said, an avalanche of smoke and debris came up the canyons, up the side streets.
You were on Broadway?
I was out by Broadway, and I guess Fulton. I had been backed up to Broadway. Started running, had some lady with me. We got completely covered with the debris and smoke. We ducked into a vestibule. We waited. It was an outside vestibule. We waited. Couldn't wait no longer. Pulled my shirt up, grabbed the lady. We started going, turned the light on the camera, started going. We found the city bus. Some people behind me. We got in the bus. We closed the door. We waited. Got a little brighter out. That's when we decided it was time to make the move. And got out and started walking around.
Was it just complete darkness and chaos?
Total darkness. It was like being in nighttime. We were totally covered with whatever this stuff was coming down. Totally covered, Larry. Larry, this was a rough one.
I know, John.
I'm okay, Mom.
Okay. Tell your family.
We're all okay. We're okay. Come
over here. Thanks, your name?
Jeff Valenti.
Jeff, you were walking down from the north coming south.
Coming down.
Could see the trade towers. And you heard jets coming?
We heard jets. Actually, I was working at 388 Greenwich Street on the 17th floor when we were looking at the first building when it was in flames. And we actually seen the plane circle around and actually come on to the opposite side of the building and smash into the trade center. The event made us evacuate the building, and everybody just moved hysterically, like crying and trying to get out of the building. And we were walking, and all you see is just papers everywhere, neckties, and we've seen actual people coming from the 110th floor with shirts on.
They were jumping. I mean, the building was on fire. Now, did you actually see the jet itself?
Yes.
And what type was it?
It was gray, to be honest with you. It was gray. It was like a 737, I think. It was approximately commercial jet. Absolutely. It was unbelievable to see. It was a big ball of flame.
Now, when you got down the streets, what did you think?
I thought maybe we were all devastated. We came down to the street, we were all looking, and all of a sudden, about maybe approximately 25 minutes later, the building collapsed. And then another 15, 20 minutes later, the other building collapsed. All the smoke came towards our building. Everybody started running in the opposite direction. It was mass hysteria.
Well, you guys, I think I'm talking to Jim and Kaidi. I know communications are very difficult down here. Again, let's look at the ash. You can see as the emergency vehicles are moving down from City Hall. You can see the clouds coming up from just that. There is just so much dust and ash on the ground right now and flowing through the air. And the people are just streaming out of here by the thousands. It's a steady parade, and we're looking at, 11:35 right now, and it is a stunned city, needless to say, as we're trying to pick up the pieces and put together what has occurred. We'll keep on the ground here for you. I'll send it back to you all.
Have some information now. There are a lot of schools down in that area, and I can just imagine what the parents of those students who went to school all happy and full of vigor. First week of school, all ready to sit down and learn, and what they must be feeling and thinking right now. Here are a few updates on what is happening at some of those schools. PS 89 and PS 234. PS 89 and PS 234. Those students have been moved to PS 41 on West 11th Street. PS 41 on West 11th Street. Also PS 150, those students and teachers and administrators, they've all been moved to PS 3, and that is at Christopher and Hudson. So they were able to evacuate those schools, hopefully without any incident, and that those kids are going to be okay. Also, there's a huge appeal going out right now for blood. St. Vincent's Hospital right now has about 112 people there who are injured, and they're critical. So please, if you're able to donate blood, that's the place to go to. They are really putting out an appeal for blood.
And that's just the first hospital we're hearing from. You have to think there's going to be many more. Speaking of evacuations, police are now evacuating the 3 passenger terminals at Newark International Airport, of course, where one of the planes, it was believed, originated this morning. You're looking at the number for St. Vincent's Hospital there. Of course, if you only need emergency information, use that number.
And that number again is 604-7285. 604-7285.
As we said earlier, what it appears has happened here is a coordinated effort to hijack planes and crash them into some of America's most prominent landmarks. So here's what we've got as far as evacuations go. They've been ordered at the United Nations here in New York. That building has already been evacuated. Also the Sears Tower in Chicago, which I believe is still the nation's tallest building. Los Angeles has mobilized its anti-terrorism division. Security has been intensified around the naval facilities in Hampton Roads, Virginia. We're looking at some other.
We're going to go down, Jim, to back to Sukanya. I'm sorry, on the street. She has another eyewitness for us.
All right, Katie. We've been talking to witnesses all day long. If you just take a look at Alan Spidrow. Alan just walked from Lower Manhattan. You were actually in one of the buildings. Can you just tell us which tower you were in and what time you heard the first point of impact, sir?
I was in World Trade 1 on the 67th floor at approximately 8:50. I have a window office, and I heard like the roars of a jet engine coming, and I looked out and I saw above my head, I guess it must have hit on the 80th around there floor, but we heard the impact, and then we immediately started going down the stairs.
What was it like going down the stairs? And at that point, were you aware that there was another plane that was actually circling and ready to hit Tower 2?
We didn't know that there was another plane. The first word we got was somebody had, I guess, an information whatever it is. He had on there that there were 2 planes that had hit the buildings. I don't even know whether it was 1, 2. I know it hit 1, but I don't know what the situation is with building 2.
Talk to us and take us back. What was it like in the hallway? What was it like walking down from the 66th floor all the way down to the towers?
Well, it wasn't too bad until we got down to about the 4th or 5th floor, but it was slow going the whole way, and it was a little smoky, but it wasn't bad. But then when we got down to about 3, we heard like another explosion. I don't know what that was, but then there was water coming down, and then fortunately we were able to get out. And I don't know what happened with I guess the building 1 came down.
Yeah, both buildings have come down at this point.
Okay, so then
what is going through your mind right now?
Because as we were going down, a lot of firemen were going up, and obviously they were in there when it came down. So
talk to me about what it was like when you got to the floor. I mean, the ground. What was it like? Were you able to get out?
It was a World War II war movie. I mean, there was just debris everywhere, and it was hard to breathe. It was a lot of dust in the air, and
What went through your mind? Just get out of there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was in there when we had the initial bomb back
1993,
in
right?
93, yes. And immediately when it hit, I mean, the building really shook a lot more than it did when the bomb hit in 93. I mean, it was the building really swayed. And we immediately started going down the stairs. With just everybody there said, let's go. So
You weren't taking any chances at that point.
No, we tried to do our best to get out. So
And if you'd like to tell your wife or your children or anybody that you're okay.
I'm fine in Norwalk. Thanks.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Once again, if you can just take a look here on 2nd Avenue, you can see that police cruisers have been pretty much racing all the way down the street as rescue vehicles try to get down. Even from here, Katie and Jim, if you can believe it, I can see the smoke that is billowing from the Lower East Side. It's kind of difficult to see through the trees, but if we can kind of, I don't know, if we can kind of move over here, you can see the smoke going through right over here. We're going to try and find another person. You got to see that this is a situation that's been happening.
It's dark. You can't see anything.
Okay. Can you come over here, sir?
Ashes.
You've actually walked all the way up here. Can you tell me what it's like, sir?
It's terrible. It's dark. You can't see anything. It's like a lot of ashes.
You were actually down there when the building came down. What was it like? Were you able to? I mean, some people were telling us
it's difficult to breathe. I mean, it was fine, but we had to go to a store just to relax a little bit. But it was difficult to breathe. You can't see anything. It's so dark over there. A lot of paper flying and.
What is going through your mind right now?
Well, I'm fine. I mean, we my friends, my colleagues, and I left, and we're fine. I'm just worried about the people who are still staying there.
All right.
I mean, we saw the building when it collapsed, and this is where we decided to leave. But I don't know what's going on there right now, but I hope that they're fine right now.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Katie and Jim, a lot of people are just slowly making their way back. I mean, if we can even just turn around over here. Sorry to can you get out of? You can see a lot of people are just trying to get away from Lower Manhattan, working their way up. Some people are running. A lot of people are getting to their phones. A lot of people are trying to call loved ones.
I'll tell you what,
Tanya,
let me take it away
Sure.
from you right now because we have an update on the
Sure.
plane that we told you a little while ago crashed in western Pennsylvania. We have learned that plane was a Boeing 757, and it originated in Newark. It originated in Newark and was on its way to San Francisco, so it certainly appears at this point that Newark was a focal point of this terrorist effort.
What's happened is being felt all over the country. As you know, there are evacuations here and in Washington. But in addition to that, as you mentioned earlier, the Sears Tower in Chicago has been evacuated. The tallest skyscrapers in Boston, Cleveland, and Minneapolis, Seattle's landmark Space Needle, they were all closed. In Massachusetts and Maine, most state employees have been sent home. State buildings have been shut down. Military bases across the country went on alert, as you can imagine. Extra security in place at Department of Energy's Nuclear Weapons and Research Complex in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, on and on. You want to take over here in California,
Sure.
Jim?
In California, Governor Gray Davis has convened a meeting of the State Emergency Council, requested heightened security in all state buildings there. In Los Angeles, police are on tactical alert. They've mobilized their anti-terrorism division. In Virginia, authorities intensified security at Hampton Roads, naval facilities. All across the country, any building that is sensitive in terms of its landmark characteristics or military characteristics, getting the heightened security treatment this morning.
We could now go to Melinda Murphy, who I understand is up in our Air 11 chopper. Melinda, what do you see from there? Melinda, can you hear me?
Good morning. You're looking at live pictures of Lower Manhattan. This is what is left of the World Trade Center. As you know, we've had what is an apparent act of terrorism on the World Trade Center with 2 hijacked planes flying into the World Trade Centers and both of these planes collapsing. Smoke is going up to about 3,000 feet or so. We're hovering at 1,500. It's about another 1,500 feet or so above us. We're also seeing a lot of extra black smoke, which is probably more explosions, more fires, which are resultant because of these original fires and the original explosions. We do, as you can see, there is still quite a scene down here. It's hard for us to tell exactly what's going on the ground, but from the air, I will say I personally witnessed the actual buildings collapsing, and I've never seen anything like it in my life. It was just overwhelming. This morning we were flying by the World Trade Center, and now today, as we hover here, there's nothing left to see. It's very strange to see the Statue of Liberty in the dust and realize that there she stands for freedom, and here we are looking at what's left of the World Trade Centers. Again, the smoke plumes are huge. You can see them for miles and miles, and they're hovering about 1,500 feet. They are about 3,000 feet above us at this point, or I'm sorry, up to about 3,000 feet the smoke is, and we can see it again from miles and miles. As you well know, air traffic control has shut down air traffic across the entire country. They are allowing us to bring these pictures to you live. However, we are one of the only aircraft in the country up right now in order to bring these photographs to you.
We're
Now,
going to
again,
have
it's
to
a very
interrupt you,
strange sight
Melinda.
to see.
We're going to go right now to a press conference at Logan Airport in Boston.
Out into the non-secure part of the airport. We've activated our Family Assistance Center at the Hilton Hotel based upon some reports that some of these flights may have originated from Boston. We're asking the media's assistance to notify any family members that may have had families flying on those flights that we've had various reports on to call these following numbers. American Airlines, 800-245-0999. Secondly, family members can call a Massport number, 617-568-3100. We've also urging people not to come to the airport at this point in time. We've increased the shuttle buses from the terminals to the MBTA Blue Line stop, and the MBTA has increased the frequency of subway transportation. We are in close communication with the FAA, the FBI, State Police, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And that's all I have right now.
Joe, you've got to tell us more about these planes.
What flights do you have reports on?
You're looking at the spokesman from Boston's
Flights,
Logan Airport, where it's believed
I cannot
one
confirm or
of the,
deny any flight numbers because I have
flights
not received
originated
official
today.
notification on any flight numbers.
How can we get people to call in? Because it'll be everybody who's got a flight.
Okay, I do believe several of the media outlets are broadcasting several flight numbers. I believe they'll broadcast flight number 11, American Airlines.
Is there a second flight out of Boston involved in this?
I don't know at this point in time.
Were the passengers hijacked?
I cannot confirm that.
Has the airport accounted for all outbound flights?
That's outside of the scope of the airport's responsibility. We're leaving it up to the FAA to conduct that activity.
Joe, what is the code? Joe, what is the code Fort Knox? We have reports of employees screaming Fort Knox around the airport at the time that the planes went into the World Trade Center.
That I don't know what that means. Doesn't mean have any connotation here at Logan Airport.
What about planes that are flying in here? Are they being rerouted somewhere else?
Aircraft were flying into Logan Airport. We did take some arrivals, but now since the airport is shut down, these flights will be diverted to Canada.
They're not taking flights either, with you?
Are you screening passengers who were let off there from
Remove them from another area, yes.
Where are they now, and what are they doing?
They're being directed to seek either public transportation or their own transportation out of the airport.
Process going on before they were removed?
Leaving the airport? No.
How long do you anticipate that the airport to be closed?
It's indefinite at this time. We'll be meeting with the FAA. We'll be conducting an analysis of our intelligence that we have. We'll make a determination later on this afternoon. Pardon me? I can just tell you briefly, we have shut down the security checkpoints. We've moved everyone away from the boarding gate areas. We've increased police presence dramatically. We've requested additional state police be sent to the airport. And we've shut down some construction activities around the airport.
Is this the highest level of security ever, Joe?
Is another flight from Boston to the Chinese?
I can't confirm or deny that right now.
Is there anything unusual about the boarding procedure at this American flight this morning? Anything out of the ordinary?
I don't have any reports that would say same.
Are you investigating breaches of security? How are you getting to the bottom of this hijacking?
I can tell you we have an ongoing investigation right now. Just an initial investigation. It's being conducted with Massport, Massachusetts State Police, and the FBI.
What do you know about United Airlines Flight 175, which is unaccounted for right now, came out of
I don't have any, I can't confirm or anything or deny anything on that particular flight. No, they have not.
Joe, did Flight 11 leave on time? Were there any delays? And was there any conversation between the pilot and the tower that seemed...
The spokesman from Logan Airport in Boston, where it's believed one of the hijacked flights originated this morning. Let's go back to Lower Manhattan and Larry Hoff. Larry?
And Larry Hoff live just blocks away from the World Trade Towers, or what were the World Trade Towers. We're outside City Hall here. Just behind us, it is a clear blue sky day, but as you look south, you can see all the ash and smoke. Come on, hey guys, this is really not the time.
This is serious.
Definitely not the time. Sorry about that, Henry. Now, Henry just walked out of the scene, and people by the thousands are parading out of that. And the emergency crews are all moving in that way. Ambulances are now starting to come out of there, and people are able to walk over the Brooklyn Bridge. So there is some movement in and out of the region. Henry, first of all, your family is where? Why don't you pull down your respirator and just say a word to your people at home?
Okay, I live in Wayne, New Jersey. I was able to get through to my wife, tell her I was okay. Breathing is hard. Eyes are dirty, but alive and well.
What happened? You were in what building?
I was at 140 Broadway, which is 2 blocks away from the World Trade Center. I had been through the last bombing, and it sounded just like another bomb going off.
Did you know what happened when the jet struck the buildings?
Well, within about 5 minutes I knew, because I sit at the Dow Jones Newswire, and it was coming across the newswire that a plane crashed into the World Trade Center.
Now, didn't everybody in your building want to get up and go at that moment?
No, because we're like a block and a half away, and nobody ever figured the buildings could collapse or that a second airplane would hit. Excuse me.
Don't worry.
So they waited quite a while before they evacuated the building.
Then what unfolded?
Everybody went downstairs and just stood there watching the flames come out of the World Trade Center. And when the flames got really, really bad, somebody suggested that maybe this wasn't the safest place to stand, because in case of a collapse, you could get dust, shrapnel, buildings around it collapsing.
What happened when the buildings did
everybody
start to collapse?
Everybody was running madly away from the World Trade Center. From 140 Broadway, everybody was headed west. And the dust...
Now, west would not be the right way to go. West would be right at the building.
I'm sorry,
you mean east and north?
Yes, east.
I'm sorry to correct you.
That's fine. It was east. That's correct. We're headed towards Brooklyn and or Queens. And then when the building collapsed,
What was that like? Explain that.
Well, it was like being in a wind tunnel, because there was stuff flying all around. You literally could not see anything. People were stumbling over each other, trying to get out of the way. Everybody was coughing, throwing up, trying to get dust out of their eyes.
Are we talking thousands of people, hundreds of people? What
it's hard
was the
to
scene like?
I don't know, because it was so black I couldn't see a thing. Literally could not see a thing. I just kept going in the direction away from the wind, so the wind was to my back, but it didn't do much good.
Did you think this was it for you?
I absolutely 100% thought I was dead. 100% definitely.
Now, when the buildings were collapsing around there, was the debris falling far enough that several blocks away it was hitting people and such?
No. The debris, I would say, was falling within a block. But then when the buildings collapsed, the dust was so thick you couldn't see where anything was falling. You just had to get out of there.
How about when it all settled? I mean, when basically the rumbling and all that ceased, what was it then like? Still blackness?
Pitch black.
What did you do?
Like, just kept walking in one direction with my hands in front of me, trying to avoid people. And actually it was quite something, because people were trying to help each other out. Once things quieted down a little bit, we went into a restaurant. I'll give them a plug. It's called the Bull Run Restaurant, which is on Pine Street. They were beyond belief. All the employees were there, giving out water, giving out towels to wash faces, any way that they could help at all. From there, once the dust settled down to the point where you could actually walk a little bit, people walked down to the post office on Pine Street, and the mail people there were incredibly helpful. Everybody was guiding everybody else.
Well, Henry, you said you were there when the World Trade Centers when it was bombed.
Yes.
I remember all of us saying, can you imagine had that bomb been able to bring that building down?
Well, at that time, nobody thought it could come down. Nobody ever conceived that it's possible that a building that was as well constructed as we thought the World Trade Center was could possibly collapse. But obviously, we were wrong.
Henry.
A lot of people were wrong.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
All right. Again, Henry's safe and telling his people in Wayne, New Jersey that he'll be able to get home. Now, that is the big issue around here. So many people coming by us this morning find out, what am I able to do? Am I able to take the subway, the trains, or what? Obviously, the buses and the trains and such, are not running in this area. Everything is locked down very tight. And Jim, I want to say, Jim and Cuddy, I'm guessing it's you guys. Again, I'm not able to hear. We hear a number of big booms coming out of that area. Don't know exactly what that is. We do see some billowing smoke every now and then, but pretty much the winds have been blowing to the east and keeping it all going out towards Long Island. North of City Hall, skies are blue, and it's a rather calm day. But the people are coming out by thousands. Scott, say that one more time, please. All right, I also want to relay that members of our crew are all right. We were concerned about some people that were rushed in at the first event, and we want to let the family know that the Channel 11 people are all right this morning. And I'm going to send it back to you guys. Stay in touch. I'll walk on down there. I'll hike on down there into the area and bring back a status report for you.
All right, Larry, listen, take care. Take care. Don't take any chances, and thank you for the update on the crew. We're so happy that everybody is okay. You think about 50,000 people, is it, that work in the World Trade Center every day?
And we do not know how many were able to get out or be evacuated after the initial impact.
No, but we have heard, sadly, that they expect that the casualties could go into the thousands, and it's just you can't even imagine.
Numbing. Let's go back to Sakanya Christian out on 42nd Street. Sakanya.
Jim and Cuddy, I'm here with Ron Snyder. Ron, can you just
Snyder.
tell Rob Snyder? Can you just tell us exactly what you saw, sir?
I saw flames coming out of the upper third of the World Trade Center. Then suddenly there was an explosion of smoke. A waterfall of gray smoke came out. It enveloped everybody standing on the street level within seconds. We could not see it all. We were blinded by it. We could barely breathe because the air was thick with dirt and it felt like trying to breathe gravel. People were frozen in time, I don't know for how many seconds, then they began to crawl forward. It was the countless acts of kindness by individual, ordinary people, McDonald's workers and office workers, that helped us get out of the smoke, into basements where we could breathe, helped to spit the crud out of our lungs. When we filled up cups with water, took them out of McDonald's, and took them to folks in the street outside so they could breathe, wash out their throats and get moving, and get everybody moving uptown and out of the hellhole.
Rob, you were telling us that you had to put your hat over your head to kind of breathe. Can you kind of just tell us how that kind of enveloped you?
It looked like a waterfall was coming behind me, about to overtake me. I ran like hundreds of other people ran. When it caught up with me, I froze, but I couldn't see anymore, and I thought that was going to be my problem. Then the smoke and debris was so thick that I thought I couldn't breathe. I took off my hat and I shoved it over my face as long as I could to keep breathing. I thought about my wife and kids, and I thought about heading east to get near the river where the buildings would be lower and there would be more fresh air. And that's what I did with two other guys. And I think we saved each other, and some folks at McDonald's helped out too.
Can you talk about how the countless acts of kindness you saw, people reaching out to each other? You said that there was
I was really worried for 1 minute that I might not make it out. I saw one guy stumbling and I grabbed him and said, come on, we're going to get out of here alive. I saw a third guy. We walked along with locked arms until we saw a sign of a McDonald's building. A guy leaned out to the side and said, come on, in here, quick. He pulled us down into a basement and into a subterranean kitchen. They had water out for us. We washed our faces off, spit the crud out of our lungs, got breathing again. And then, when the smoke cleared a little, went back out into the street to head north and get out of there.
Can you tell us, can you describe what the street scene was like as you were running, or once the dust sort of settled, if it did settle at all? Can you describe us what it was like on the street?
It looked what I imagined Hiroshima all this looked like after the atom bomb. Lots of clouds, lots of smoke, lots of dust, people dazed and in shock, stumbling along, trying to find their way home to their loved ones.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I know you've been through a lot today, and we're glad you're okay. If you want to tell your wife and children that you are okay.
I'm okay, and I was thinking of you all the time. You helped me get through.
All right, thank you. A little laughter. A lot of people are just kind of going through so much. Can you take over here now? There's a flood of people that are coming from downtown, walking uptown. A lot of people are just trying to figure out where to go, and that's really the scene here, Jim and Cuddy. A lot of people coming from downtown. When you listen to them, let me just try and get this husband and wife couple over here, if I could. They were also. Can you talk to us, sir, about how you two made it? Obviously, your wife's been through a lot. Can you tell us what it was like down there?
It's just devastating. It's just a travesty.
When it came down, where were you? Where were your wife? What were you thinking?
I was thinking get her. I was trying to get on the telephone, and the building just collapsed. And my only thought was to just get my wife. I'm running. She's running this way. People trampling each other, and it's just, there's no way really to describe it unless you was in it. It's just I just feel so sad for everybody. It's just devastating.
Did you see the first explosion? Did you see the second explosion at that point?
I didn't see the first explosion, but I felt it. 'Cause we in the hotel. I'm thinking, I hear it. I'm like, what's that? What's that? I asked my wife, what's that? She said, oh, it's thunder. I said, that's not thunder. I know thunder. That was not thunder. So we look out. Like 10 minutes later, here's another explosion. And we look out the hotel, and there's two big gaping holes in the World Trade Center. Just two big holes. And just everything is on flame.
And then at what point did you initially notice it collapsing, and did you make a run for it with your wife?
It didn't collapse right away. They evacuated everything. They evacuated the hotels, and everybody got out on the street, and everybody trying to make their way. I would say maybe 10, 15 minutes later, after everybody's evacuated, it comes down. You're standing there outside, and here's this massive building just collapsing in front of you. Now it's just hell break loose. Everybody's in panic mode. Everybody's just trying to run for cover. But you can't outrun no flames. You can't outrun that. So now you just hope you don't choke to death. Hope you don't die in the flames. And it's just sad to be there and involved in that and see it. You see people, the expressions on people's faces is just like, I'm going to die. Everybody's just trying to survive at that point. It's just people diving out the building on the 70th floor, just diving out the building. I mean, what are you gonna do?
You saw people diving out the building?
Either you're gonna be inflamed, or you just gotta try to make it at that point. It's just I can't even. It's that. Like my wife, she don't even want to talk about it.
You saw the building?
I'm sorry, sir?
It was like you saw the building, and you turned around, and you didn't see the tower no more. That was the World Trade.
Can you talk to me at all? Can you talk to me? Obviously, you have a mask. You've made it out. Can you tell me what it was like, sir, at all?
Yeah, I just want to. Is this being televised right now?
Yeah.
I just want to let my wife know.
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Bridget, the last time you saw me, heard from me, I was downstairs at the Marriott. I'm okay. Okay? I was in the Marriott at the World Trade Center.
Right. Can you tell me how you got out? I mean, where?
It's a long story.
I know, long, and you're tired. Okay, go ahead. I
okay.
totally understand. All right, there are two more people over here as well, sir. Can you tell us? I mean, you obviously walked all the way from downtown. Can you put it into words what you experienced?
Something like you could never imagine. I mean, bad, real bad.
What was it, sir?
Pandemonium.
Where were you? Can you kind of set the scene
Broadway.
for us? Okay.
And well, we had heard that the first plane hit tower number 1, so we went to take a look at it. Obviously, while we were there, tower number 2 got hit. Total explosion. All 4 sides of the building just blew out.
I'm sorry?
We saw the plane go into the building.
And at that point, were you running?
We ran.
We ran. We ducked out of the way. Debris was flying all through the air. Everybody was running. And then after it settled down and there was an internal explosion in the building, maybe like 10, 15 minutes later. And like 10 minutes after that, the building came down.
Where did you get this? Were they handing this out to you?
No, we just happened to run into one of the buildings, and one of the guys in the building was giving them out because there was smoke. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face.
Could you breathe? Could you breathe? A lot of people are saying.
No, we couldn't breathe. It was really bad. People would walk into the vestibules of buildings just covered in soot, worse than him. It was really disgusting.
It was bad. It was really bad.
All right, can you want to tell your family that you're okay, or?
We called them already.
Okay.
We called them, but
okay.
we're okay.
Your name?
My name's Rob Royster. To other people that are down there, I hope your family's okay.
Yeah.
It's bad, and we know there are a lot of people hurt.
All right. Our hearts, and of course, a lot of people, as you hear personal testimony about what's going on here, Jim and Kaidi, you can't help but feel a sense of a numbness that goes through your body as you see people describe the waterfall of smoke and trying to escape and the chaos on the street, and our hearts go out to the people who didn't make it out at this point. It's just devastating to even talk about this. So I'm going to send it back to you and come back to me later on in the show.
Counts.
Thank
you, Zakania. We have a lot to tell you about, but we do want to mention one update. This national nightmare may not be over just yet. United Airlines is saying that it's very concerned that one of its Boeing 767s, a flight from Boston to Los Angeles, is still unaccounted for. In other words, they're not sure what its location is, what its destination is. They apparently have lost touch with it. So the possibility seems to continue that there are still planes in the air perhaps under the control of terrorists.
It's not too much to say that this is absolutely apocalyptic. Those witnesses that were trying so hard to describe what they saw were at a complete loss for words.
Yeah, on that note about the apocalypse, I just want to give you a quote from Senator Chuck Hagel, a Republican of Nebraska. "This is the second Pearl Harbor," he said. "I don't think I overstate it." Back to Larry Hoff in Lower Manhattan.
Did you make it out of the, did you get away before they collapsed, or were you?
No, we were in there when it happened.
Larry, go. Okay, I'm sorry, everybody. I was just talking with this man right now who just came from the scene. Your name?
Joe Ramirez.
And your title?
I'm a supervisor security over at Morgan Stanley for 5 World Trade Center.
And you're in the Trade Center when the planes crashed in?
That's correct.
What did you know what was going on?
No, we didn't know at first. We thought it was some sort of a rumble of some kind, maybe an electrical problem, but once we found out, we evacuated immediately all of our personnel at the floor. That's including Morgan Stanley individuals that are working at 5 World Trade Center, and also with 2 World Trade Center and 1 World Trade Center was immediately evacuated.
So people were getting out of there very quickly after the first impact?
That's correct. The first impact we felt right away. They informed us, and we were out of there as quickly as possible. We evacuated everyone from the various floors. We're left behind with our security personnel that was ensuring that everyone was out of there in a timely fashion.
Okay, now everybody at home right now is watching over and over the video of the buildings burning. Some video has even turned up of the jets actually striking the building. This is probably a vision you don't have. Now, what was it like inside the building? How many floors up do you think they were able to evacuate before the buildings crumbled?
Well, knowing the Port Authority, the way they work expeditiously in hand with the other security personnel that are in 2 and 1 World Trade Center, we were able to evacuate people expeditiously as possible within minutes. So prior to the collapse of the upper floors of 1 and 2 World Trade Center, everyone was, I would say, more than 95% were out.
You think that many people?
I
now,
think so.
At the points of impact, do you know what was going on up there? Were firefighters going up? Were rescue people going up to those floors?
It was chaotic. It was chaotic.
Okay,
so
now,
I can't say for what it would occur, but I was bombarded with phone calls at
hold on
5
just
World
a
Trade
second.
Center.
Everybody is obviously very nervous when we hear jet engines right now. We're just looking up to see what, we have a jet plane going by. I think that is actually the Air Force, F-15s or F-16s patrolling the area.
We have, for what I've been informed by intelligence, there are reconnaissance planes that are flying around the area, just ensuring that there's no possible threat.
Okay, now, when the building started collapsing, when the first building collapsed, describe what was happening. You seem very calm for all that has occurred.
I am shaken right now. I ensured that everyone was out. The police department worked with the federal and local agencies to ensure that everyone was out of the immediate area. I, for one, was ensuring that everyone was in my domain, and as far as my staff was concerned. Unfortunately, the explosion was unexpected and so overwhelming that the blast took a good almost 2.5 miles of this dust and debris.
So what happened? Where were you when the buildings started coming down?
I was literally around the area of Liberty and the church.
Describe that. What happened? You guys just start running or just pray?
I know. I took shelter right away as I could, but it was so overwhelming. The explosion was nothing. I can't even compare what it would look like. It was like it would be like a 1,000-foot tidal wave the way it looked. That's how impact it was.
In the aftermath, is this just carnage throughout the area?
Right now it is. Right now it is. I can't explain the amount of carnage that is left behind. Who was on upper floors, as well as the plaza area between the 1 and 2 World Trade Center. There are many bodies they said that they were still looking for, and the debris is too much.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up here right now. Why don't you tell your family at home you're okay?
I'm okay. I'll see you at home.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we'll continue on. Come back again. You can see it has been a continual parade of people coming out of the area, and the clouds continue to billow. In fact, it is starting to move north and east now towards us. We're live this morning outside City Hall, right at Chambers and Center. Come back and join us in a little bit. We'll try to get an update for you.
All right, Larry, thank you very much. The latest now on that United Airlines flight. We told you a few moments about. The airline was concerned because they have lost contact with it. We have learned now that United is saying that this flight, this Boeing 767 from Boston to Los Angeles, has crashed. They have not said what location this has happened. They have said where it was, but that the plane, in addition to the others, has gone down. On the phone with us right now is Stanley Lupkin. He is an international security expert. Thank you so much for joining us. This is just impossible to fathom. How could something like this happen? How could those planes, so many planes, be hijacked at the same time?
I think it's a very good question. I was pondering to myself as I was listening to the news broadcasts about how cockpits in 4 or however many planes there were that have so far been identified can have been penetrated. I think it raises a serious issue about airline security, both on the ground and in the air.
We thought airline security had been heightened recently, and that it was certainly a lot more intense than it had been before the 1993 incident at the World Trade Center.
There are many things that you can do about tightening it. What you probably can never do is prevent something like this. When someone is hell-bent, particularly a well-organized, well-synchronized group, is hell-bent upon demonstrating its cause in a very dramatic, horrific way, there are very few ways of preventing.
Given that, Mr. Lupkin, the question that is going to be asked by people and to people like yourself for months to come now, what then? What do we, if you can't be prevented and it's happened, what then?
My own view is that probably the long-term answer to it is probably to try to figure out a way to increase the ability to infiltrate these groups. It's largely an intelligence function. If you can get a pre-warning from a group because you've got somebody on the inside of that group and you've managed to penetrate them on a deep cover, that's probably the best way of getting information that will allow you to deal with situations and kind of prevent them from happening or foreclosing them from happening.
What do you understand was the degree of intelligence penetration the U.S. had made into, let's say, Osama bin Laden's organization?
I don't know that we know the answer to that. I think the folks down in Washington are going to be scratching their heads and asking a lot of questions about it. And until we know precisely what the answers are, I don't think we know. I think it is not easy to penetrate groups like this. There have been efforts to turn around people who've been caught who were affiliated with those groups.
But obviously they found a way to penetrate the airport security, as you said, and to get on those planes and do what they did. That is the thought that is so terrifying. How were they able to do that?
It's a good question. I don't know what precautions were in place at the various airports where these planes took off. And it's a puzzlement to me as I sit here listening to the same stories the same reports that we're getting, as to how 4 or 5 cockpits could have been penetrated in such a synchronized and well coordinated way.
Well, looking forward to the days and weeks ahead, Mr. Lupkin, as far as people who travel for a living, what types of changes, what types of hassles, what types of new security procedures are going to go into place? What's flying in America going to be like after this?
My guess is it's probably going to be more akin to what flying to and from Israel has been like for the last 15 or 20 years or more. The Israelis, because they have had to deal with this on an ongoing basis, have developed a security protocol that is really the envy of the rest of the world, and there's always a tug of war as to how far you go in terms of the screening that has to take place on the ground, as contrasted with the convenience of passengers. And I think we're probably going to find ourselves in a situation where we're going to be infringing more upon the convenience of passengers and opting much more frequently in a much more intense way on doing the kinds of intense checking that, for example, El Al has been doing for 15 or 20 years, and that ties up flights.
Yeah, I was going to say, in other words, you're talking about the already bogged down air traffic system becoming perhaps exponentially worse.
I think that's possible. As I said, there's got to be a balance struck there, obviously.
And what about life in New York in the next few months or weeks? So, what kind of security measures do you think will actually work, if there are any?
Well, as I said at the top of this piece, it's virtually impossible in a building, for example, like the World Trade Center, or any large building, to prevent people from coming in who are of a mind to doing what they want to do. If somebody is intent upon becoming a martyr and is willing to sacrifice his or her life, it's very, very hard to prevent that from happening. I think you've got to make people more security conscious. You've got to have people become alert to looking for and keeping their eye out for suspicious packages and suspicious things. And there are going to be a lot of false accusations that are going to be made with this heightened sense of perhaps an understandable overreaction that's likely to occur in the wake of this horrendous attack.
Mr. Lufkin, we
you.
appreciate your comments this morning.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you for joining us. Let's go back to Sukanya Christian down on the plaza outside our building on 42nd Street, East 42nd Street.
All right, Jim and Kaidi, if you could just pan over here. You can see a lot of people are just coming to grips with what's going on, especially a lot of tears, a lot of people thinking about the thousands of people who have lost their lives here today. A lot of hearts, a lot of sorrow, a lot of heavy hearts. Joining me live here is one of the women who was lucky enough to make it out. And can you tell me your name really quickly?
Lisa Leffler.
Lisa, how are you feeling? I mean,
well, if I'd been in one, I'd not be here.
Yeah. You were there in 1993, Lisa, right?
No, our lease, actually we negotiated our lease just after that. But,
can you tell me what happened here today?
Well, I'm on the 103rd floor of Tower 2, and I heard what sounded like a sonic boom, like when a plane goes supersonic. It got extremely hot. I looked out my window, and all I saw was this fireball and just ran. Everybody just started running toward the stairs. We walked down to 78. The elevators were still running, so some people walked all the way down, some people rode the elevators. 4 of us ran over to Pine Street to one of our co-workers' sisters' offices. We made all our phone calls, and then a few minutes later they told us to evacuate that and just run.
You've been standing here with me as you've been listening to people who are in the building, just made it out of the building before it collapsed.
Yeah.
Obviously, you are very shaken, as the rest of the crowd is. Can you tell me what's going through your mind right now, if you can?
Well, my husband has already said that we should start having kids. And he's also told me I quit. So that's about it. Then again, I'm pretty unemployed at this point. So,
right.
But
if you'd like to tell your family that you're okay.
I've called my mother, my grandparents, my husband, my father. I'm actually going to try and get to my dad now, and hopefully we can get back to Jersey.
Okay.
But it's unreal.
All right.
It really is.
Thank you for sharing with us here today. Jim and Kaidi, these are people who are just sort of standing here, going through the emotions that a lot of people are going through. Can you tell me how you're feeling? You weren't there, but you've been listening to people.
You was after you.
I can't tell.
I know. Okay, it's really hard out here on the street. Can you try and put it into words, ma'am?
My heart goes out to the family. I just cannot imagine how such a terrorist could have so much hatred in their heart to just kill innocent people. I just can't imagine.
So a lot of heavy hearts out here. A lot of people coming to terms with this devastation, with this act. I can't even put it into words myself, Jim and Kaidi, as I've been standing out here listening to stories of people talk about how they barely made it alive, listening and thinking about the only way that they were able to focus and make it out was to think about their families and people helping each other, the countless acts of kindness. So that's the very latest out here on 42nd Street. I throw it back to you.
Thank you. I apologize for being a little bit emotional right now. I just heard that my son, who was evacuated from a school in that area on Chambers Street, is okay. It's fine.
Good.
Philip, I'm so happy you're home.
Hopefully that same call is being made to hundreds and thousands of families, that everybody is all right as well. Of course, a number of calls we made that that is not the case. Let's talk a little bit about what is the military response to this. Navy aircraft carriers, we understand, have been dispatched to 2 of them, I believe, I was told, to hang close to New York Harbor in the hours after this tragedy to, I guess, keep an eye on things. We also want to tell you the New York National Guard has been activated. And one other point that we've learned here in the last few minutes, the plane that went down 80 miles north of Pittsburgh in Somerset County was, in fact, a United flight. They have confirmed that.
Perhaps at this point we should go over, again, give you a sort of a recap for those of you who might just be turning on your television sets now and wondering what in the hell is happening. A plane crashed into the tower of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan shortly before 9 a.m. this morning. A second plane then crashed into the second tower shortly after 9. Shortly after 10, one of those towers, the first one, collapsed about an hour after being hit by the plane. American Airlines says one of the planes that crashed into the Trade Center was American Airlines Flight 11, hijacked from takeoff from Boston on the way to Los Angeles. Then, meanwhile, at the same time, around the same time, officials say a car bomb exploded outside the State Department and a plane also hit the Pentagon. An aircraft crashed near the Pentagon just outside of Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia. This is about an hour after the attacks in New York. Airports, trains, tunnels, bridges, all closed.
Public transportation shut down.
Shut down. They are pleading for blood, please. About 112, maybe more, people in critical condition, most of them taken to St. Vincent's at this point. St. Vincent's is asking, please, to donate blood. They're trying to get a blood drive going because there's so many people who are very badly hurt.
Also, today was primary election day in New York. I say was because it's not anymore. The election scheduled for today has actually been postponed. Am I told that there's the number for St. Vincent's Hospital if you need to make an emergency call to find out about any loved ones you think may be involved. Are we going to Melinda? I'm told, is that, no? All right. What else have we got here from the information we've gotten in the last few minutes, Heidi?
Well, it's mind-boggling and horrifying on a scale that I have never, ever
On a scale
encountered.
that nobody has ever seen before.
We did get information just for that United Airlines, in addition to American Airlines, are worried about their planes, and they just confirmed a short while ago that a second plane, a United Airlines plane, did crash. It was on its way, I believe, from, was it
from Newark to,
San
Newark
Francisco?
to, well, see, now I'm losing
No, I'm
track.
saying
We have flights
we are a
originating
little
from Boston and from Newark, both United planes and American planes. I think everybody is still trying to straighten out which ones went down where. Let's go now to Melinda Murphy in Air 11. Melinda?
You're looking at live pictures from Air 11 of Lower Manhattan, where the World Trade Centers used to stand. As you can see, there's a very large plume of smoke over the city right now. That plume of smoke probably goes up about 4,000 feet. And that dark smoke means that there are still fires on the ground that firefighters are having to battle. In fact, they seem to be moving to the east as the wind has shifted to the east. And all that smoke is now blowing over the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, over the Gowanus as well. Very good idea to keep your windows closed and, of course, turn off your water. People are going to definitely need the water pressure to fight this fire. If you can look at the ground, you can see a lot of pandemonium here on the ground. There's still a lot of smoke on the ground, making it very difficult for people down on the ground. One interesting thing as far as firefighting goes, you can see some of the different water being put onto this flames. One interesting thing is that boat that you see right there is called the Firefighter. Now that is basically an amazing piece of equipment which pumps water right out of the Hudson River. It takes about 11,000 gallons of water a minute and relays it to a pumper truck, which then relays it to another pumper truck. And that's one way that they can get water to this fire in case the water mains have been affected by these explosions. Something else that's interesting is that old tugboats can actually pump water from the river as well. Tugboats are streaming across the water at this moment, and there are a bunch of them lined up on the southern tip of Manhattan, ready to do their part and stand by to help people out in this particular scene. As you can see, there they are, all lined up, starting to pump water, and we believe, it's hard for us to tell right here, but we think that there are hoses actually hooked up to this. Now, something interesting, as you know, all air traffic has been shut down over the United States. We are one of the only aircraft actually allowed up at this point. What we understand is that a New Jersey State Police helicopter was just denied access to this area. He is a rescue vehicle, so we are not sure how long we will be allowed to stay up. Some other interesting things about air traffic in this area. Teterboro, along with the New Jersey State Police, are setting up a command post for medevac flights. We also have seen an Eagle F-15 fighter, which was over us just recently. We know that there is military protection over New York City and over us as well, I suppose. Out in Princeton, we understand that an F-15 actually intercepted what we believe is a non-hostile aircraft. It seemed to be a helicopter, but did make them land, actually make them contact, and we understand that they were forced to land. So again, they're very serious about this no-fly zone over Manhattan. We are very fortunate to be able to bring you these live pictures. That dark smoke, once again, is what we believe radiant fires, which are coming from the initial explosions and the initial collapse of the World Trade Centers. I will say, from a personal note, I saw the collapse, and it was just the most overwhelming thing I've ever seen in my entire life, to sit there and see the World Trade Centers on fire, and then suddenly they were both gone. I fly by it every single morning, and it's just overwhelming to look out the window and realize they're not there. It's also very strange because Lady Liberty is standing there with her torch burning brightly, and the entire city back behind it totally gone. It's just unbelievable, an incredible scene. Again, that plume of smoke is going up to, we believe, about 4,000 feet at this point. The wind has slightly shifted, and the wind is going over the Red Hook section of Brooklyn. It is a very good idea, again, to keep your windows closed. Don't go outside, and please try to stay out of the area. That's what we know here from Air 11. Back to you guys in the studio.
Melinda, thank you so much. We're going to take a look at one of the first looks at the World Trade Center close up. Apparently,
I assume this is either after the first or second plane hit. You see people literally hanging from the windows outside the buildings. We can only guess at what the fate of these people was. They're at the extreme top floors. That looks like the first hit, which was a little bit higher on tower number 2.
People
Somebody's waving, trying to attract some kind of attention.
And according to some of the eyewitnesses that we talked to earlier, they actually saw some people, not here in this video yet, but hopefully not at all, but they did see some people leaping from the windows,
with the
trying
fire
to
burning
escape
inside. They
the
apparently
flames.
Didn't have any choice. We're taking a few moments here just to try to catch our breaths, just like you folks. We are seeing this unfold, and the gnawing feeling that is in the pit of your stomach is also in ours.
You feel numb, just feel numb. Cannot believe what we're seeing. Just to make a clarification, because I was a little confused earlier about the United Airlines flight, that second plane was a Boeing 767 that was going from Boston to LA. And they were not able to contact it, then they confirmed that it did crash. We still do not know at this point where.
All right, I guess it's time to do a bit of an update here. It appears that there's been a concerted terrorist effort at airports here in Boston and perhaps other places as well to hijack a number of planes. I believe the count now is either 4 or 5 commercial jetliners. This is the second plane, one that was hijacked from Newark, hitting tower number 1, hitting it really on the south side and coming completely through the building. That tower later on was the first to collapse. The second tower, which you see there, had already been hit, collapsed about 20 minutes after that. The Pentagon also struck by a plane this morning, a fire burning there. There's the first collapse of tower number 1 at the World Trade Center. And then tower number 2.
Let's go now to Larry Hoff, who's in Lower Manhattan. Larry?
I know, guys, I know I'm on. Just hold on just for a second. Let me hand you this right now. Things are happening, fast and furious around here. We're live this morning just outside City Hall. This is Center Street, just off to my right. And now you look down Center Street as it heads down towards the financial district, and the area that once held the World Trade Towers and the smoke still billows out of there, wind pushing it east across the East River, and the legions of people walking out of there continues this morning in relative calm, if I might say. We've just had a whole platoon of construction workers escorted in by NYPD, and they're moving into that area, ground zero, probably about 6 blocks from here. And also the fire department sent in another legion of firefighters as well, in the rescue units, and it has actually quieted down with the ambulances moving into this area. Now, as for us, the media going into that area, we're not allowed to. We're being stopped just down on Broadway, and that's as far as we're going this morning, but we're certainly hear a lot of anecdotal stories coming out of here about what occurred today, and you hear a number of varied, in fact, somewhat wild stories, but it's almost you guys have the best perspective of what is going on and what is developing right now. Main question for a lot of people out there is, how do I get home right now? And we really haven't heard down here what is going to occur. Everybody is just migrating north, and they actually come up to us as an information source for them. So come back and join us in just a little bit. We'll try to get more of an update for you.
Now, a little clarification about the 4 jetliners involved in this catastrophe. Seems like not harsh enough a word for what's happened. Right. 2 of them were United Airlines planes, and 2 were American Airlines, all of them bound for California. The 2 planes that hit the towers were both American Airlines.
One of the United planes we know went down 80 miles north of Pittsburgh. We don't know what any intended target might have been in that area. The second one, United plane, we have understood has crashed, but I believe we do not have a specific location on where that has taken place. So just beginning right there, we know that hundreds of lives have been lost simply on the jetliners that were hijacked this morning. 2 of the flights, I believe, originating from Newark, at least one of the others coming out of Boston.
We'd like to toss back to Melinda again because she may not be able to stay up there in that chopper.
Good morning. You're looking at live pictures from Air 11 of Lower Manhattan, where the World Trade Centers used to stand and have now been flattened. You see all the smoke which is coming up. We are hovering at about close to 2,000 feet, and those smoke fumes are way ahead of and way above us. I would say probably up to 4,000 feet at this point. The good news is that the wind is not blowing too strongly, which makes it less of a problem for firefighters. The bad news is the Red Hook section of Brooklyn has a lot of smoke hovering over it, as does the Lower Manhattan. You can see there's also a lot of firefighters working the ground right now, a lot of dark smoke down there. That is simply because the fire is rolling from place to place, and it's going to take quite some time, as we can all well imagine, to get this under control. See that building there? That building was smashed probably when the World Trade Centers came climbing down. So when they came crashing down, again, it smashed another building. You can see the water coming there, and that boat right in front of that is called the Firefighter. It pumps about 11,000 gallons of water per minute from the river into another pumper and then to another pumper. It's called a relay pump, and that's one way that they can get water onto this fire with or without water mains. We also have tugboats which have been called out this morning, or at least people who are coming out with their tugboats. Tugboats, many people do not realize, actually are able to pump water from the river itself and be able to feed some different hoses out there. So we believe that they are actually starting to hook up hoses, although we can't quite tell from this point, and help fight this fire using the river and the natural resources that we have around us. As you well know, air traffic control has shut down all air traffic over the United States. As I mentioned earlier, we are one of the only aircraft allowed to be up at this point. One of the other newscopters was actually asked to land. In fact, one of the New Jersey State Police was denied access into this area, and it is actually a rescue vehicle. We also have seen an Eagle F-15 fighter. They have her at a much higher, or they fly at a much higher level than we do, so we can't really see them, but we did see one drop down low enough for us to be able to visualize it. So we do know that we have military protection flying over New York right now, and we did hear that a F-15 actually contacted a non-hostile helicopter out in the Princeton area and asked it to land. So that is definitely affecting air traffic in this area. Also, we know that New Jersey State Police and Teterboro are setting up a command post for the medevac flights. As you can well imagine, they are now going to have to start moving some of these people to the different areas. We do have New Jersey has a burn unit out here, and I'm sure many of these victims may be needing some of that treatment from the burn unit out in this area, as well as the hospitals in New York have been completely overwhelmed. St. Barnabas and probably New Jersey DMJ, they will all start picking up some of this extra injuries that are coming from this city. Now, again, what we see here is the smoke's starting to lessen a little bit towards the bottom of Manhattan, but it is starting to go up higher, and there is still a very dark smoke plume coming up, which means fire. The white is traditionally steam. That's where they are getting water onto the fire. The black is smoke coming from fires. And as you can see, the fire is starting to roll to the east side of Manhattan, staying further from the west and going east, because that, of course, is how the wind is blowing, the slight wind that we do have. Good news is the wind is not very strong, which makes it less of a problem for firefighters. But of course, it is very, very smoky for people in the southern part of Manhattan, as well as like the Red Hook section of Brooklyn or on the Gowanus. Keep your windows closed, turn your water off, stay out of the area. The firefighters really need the room to be able to do the work they need to do, as well as, of course, all the other EMTs and rescue vehicles which are in the general area. Again, it's not a good idea to go down here. They do not need sightseers at this point. Really, it's a good idea to stay away and try to stay off your cell phones as well. The firefighters and other emergency vehicles need to be able to get in contact with the people that they need to talk to. Again, I am just stunned by the height of this smoke plume. It goes up, I would say, maybe even now 4,500 feet, maybe 5,000 feet. It's hard to tell exactly, but it is a huge plume. You can see it for miles and miles away from Manhattan. We are hovering, obviously, on the other side. There's a 5-mile radius, which they are keeping us away from the buildings themselves, or what's left of the buildings themselves. And again, I personally witnessed the buildings collapse, and I was just stunned at the sight. I still can't get over the building suddenly being there and then suddenly not. It was just an awesome, awe-inspiring sight. I've never seen anything quite like it myself. And it's very strange to look over Manhattan right now, see the Empire State Building, and continue looking down it, and the World Trade Centers are completely and totally gone. But again, what we do know is that they are obviously still battling these blazes down here. There is still a lot of dark smoke. We definitely have fire, which is raging down here, and firefighters are having to battle this. The good news is that they are able to use some of the fire boats, particularly one boat that we can see from our vantage point, which is called the Firefighter. It's an amazing piece of firefighting equipment in that it actually pumps water from the Hudson River, can suck it up from the actual mouth of the river, and it'll pump out 11,000 gallons of water per minute. It does what's called a relay pump then. It pumps it from one pumper to another pumper, and that way they can get water to the scene. It's really an amazing task for the firefighters to be able to use a piece of equipment like it. There it is. You see it right there in the center of your screen. And again, it's a nice thing that we have something like that in this part of the country. Coast Guard is also coming up from South Jersey, we understand, and from different areas as well. And as we've mentioned, tugboats are down here from basically all over. Volunteers are bringing out their own personal tugboats to hook them up to hoses to, again, help firefighters and other emergency fighters in this particular project. Now, as we mentioned, we are one of the only aircraft hovering this morning. We're actually one of the only aircraft in the entire country which is allowed to stay up in the air right now. One of the other newscopters has been asked to land. They are being very kind and letting us bring you these live pictures of this fire over Manhattan. And again, that is where the World Trade Centers used to stand. Now instead is a plume of smoke, which is probably double or even triple in height where the World Trade Centers themselves used to be. Those dark places are where the fires are still raging. The white is the actual steam which comes from the water being put onto the fire. The black is the noxious fumes which are coming off the fire. Now, it's again very important to keep your windows closed. If you're walking out on the street, it's a good idea to cover your mouth. Use a wet cloth if you possibly can. Try to keep low to the ground, and of course, obviously, try to stay out of the area altogether. If you're driving perhaps on the Gowanus, it's a good idea to keep your windows closed. I will say I'm quite surprised looking around Manhattan we see, or at least in New Jersey where we're able to see, New Jersey Turnpike has very few cars on it. It seems as though most people have gotten off the roadway and have perhaps gone home, or at least gone to what they consider a safe place. You're now looking at the ground and you can see the dark smoke. That is an intense fire that's burning there. Obviously there's a lot of fuel down there for the fire to eat up and burn. Any type of aircraft would have spilt a lot of fuel onto the ground, particularly if they were loaded to go to the West Coast. So there's a lot of fuel down there which is adding to this fire. Anyway, that's what we see here from the air. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Melinda Lynn White, rejoining me here as Heidi takes a break. We want to show you a piece of video from the mouth of the Lincoln Tunnel on the Manhattan side. Apparently the people who are caught up in the traffic jams over there and in the buildings nearby are loading up onto buses organized by the city to try to get them to New Jersey, I'm guessing, either that or further uptown. You can see the people, the distress on everyone's faces as they try to be the people on that bus to just get out of this area. It is borderline chaos, it appears to be, with the authorities doing the best they can to keep everything under control. Those people bound for some sort of destination away from the impact zone, I guess we can call it.
Absolutely, there is a mass exodus at this point. Many people going uptown, leaving town if they can, but the problem is that public transportation is mainly at a standstill right now. The bus station has been shut down.
Look at that, Lynn. It appears as if the police have commandeered a
Right.
Hamptons jitney to try to move
Taking
people
it
around.
anywhere, and you're talking about ambulances. They're running out of ambulances, so private cars are taking people to hospitals who need to go there. Right now we've got Sukanya Krishnan. She is live for us near the UN.
Lynn, just take a look over here. There were some bomb-sniffing dogs that were called in over here. You can see the officer that's getting inside the police vehicle. We are on the corner of 42nd and 2nd, just to give you a little update. We're right by the Israeli consulate, and we're also right by the UN. And of course, the bomb-sniffing dog was called in to check out what was happening. Obviously, things are okay as you can see, that's the canine that's actually trying to get across. This is the Israeli consulate that we were talking about, and the UN. You can see this utter chaos that's happening here on 2nd Avenue as people are trying to make a mad dash, trying to get to wherever we have to.
And shut down. The city and the country in a state of shock and mourning over this terrorist attack that is being felt around the world.
You're now taking a look at some of the planes that actually crashed into the Trade Center. They're being identified by American Airlines as Flight 11, a Los Angeles-bound jet hijacked after takeoff from Boston with 92 people aboard, and Flight 77 from Washington to L.A. that was carrying 64 people. In Pennsylvania, United Airlines Flight 93, a Boeing 757, was en route from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco, crashed about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh with 45 people aboard. United said another of its planes, Flight 175, a Boeing 767 bound from Boston to Los Angeles with 65 people on board, also crashed, but it did not say where. The fate of those aboard the two planes was not immediately known. American Airlines has also put up a hotline number. That's 1-800-245-0999. United Airlines, you can call them for information at 1-800-932-8555.
One other way life has been impacted here that Lynn did not mention in her piece right there, which is a little bit ironic, Jackie, because had this been a normal day, it would have been our lead story on the news tonight, namely the primary election to determine who the candidates were going to be for New York City mayor. The election, and I don't know if this has ever happened in New York City history before, the election has been postponed. There will be no more voting the rest of the day. All the polling places are closed, and so that event, which was to be sort of the big news event of the day, now relegated to a non-event in light of everything that's happened since then.
Now, Jim, I know you've been here pretty much all morning, but I came in this morning from Queens just a little while ago.
You came on foot?
I walked from Queens pretty much, and the scene was unbelievable. I walked over the Queensboro Bridge, and when I tell you, thousands of people making their way out of Manhattan into Queens, just, everyday people in shock. And then in the backdrop, you could see the World Trade Center, nothing but smoke coming from that area of the city. And let me tell you, a frightening, frightening scene.
Well, unimaginable. The thing that we've been seeing on the faces of everybody is that look of this can't really be happening, can it? We have some other things that have been impacted now by today's events. All Major League Baseball games. We told you about the Yankee game earlier tonight. All Major League Baseball has postponed its schedule. There are to be 15 games played tonight, and because of the terrorist attacks in New York and Washington, they are not going to be played. This is the first time since Franklin D. Roosevelt's death in 1945 that baseball has wiped out an entire day of regular season play, other than because of work stoppages or because of weather. That call made by Baseball Commissioner Bud Selig about 3.5 hours after the attacks began.
There's also United Pilots Union said United Flight 175 crashed into the Trade Center, but the airline had no immediate comment. An emergency dispatcher in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, received a cell phone call at about 9:58 from a man who said he was a passenger locked in the bathroom of United Flight 93. Said the dispatch, this was Glenn Kramer. "We are being hijacked. We are being hijacked," this man quoted. The man also told dispatchers the plane was going down. He heard some sort of explosion, saw white smoke coming from the plane, and then we lost contact with him. I also want to go to some video now. Our camera was actually on the ground and captured some pictures when the second plane hit the World Trade Center tower. Okay, you're looking at unbelievable pictures from earlier today at the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan following the building collapse. We are now going to go to some other video that's outside St. Vincent's Hospital. And as you can see, there are stretchers lined on the streets. There is chaos and pandemonium as people arrive at the hospital seeking care. Doctors and nurses are coming in from all parts of the city to try and help. You see a Port Authority police officer there with bandages across his head, his arm. He looks like he's in pretty bad condition right there. And as you see, you can see more people being brought out of ambulances, injured people. This is at St. Vincent's Hospital where stretchers are lined along the streets, ambulances arriving. Just chaos and pandemonium for the emergency staff there at this hospital as they try desperately to help everyone. You can see there a woman with some, looks like burn marks on her arm. And now you're taking another look from the chopper at Lower Manhattan, and a devastating, devastating sight for all in New York City today. We're going to go to Melinda Murphy. She's in the chopper now with what's more going on. Melinda? Melinda, can you hear us?
You're looking at live pictures of Lower Manhattan where you can see the smoke plumes still burning where the World Trade Centers once used to stand. Both of them, of course, have been wiped out by these two terrorist attacks, these planes which crashed into the World Trade Center. I will say that we took off shortly after the two planes crashed into the World Trade Center buildings, and it was such an overwhelming sight to see the two buildings burning and then to watch each one by one, collapse upon itself. It looked more like an implosion than it actually did a building falling over or toppling over. It really kind of fell into itself, and this huge amount of debris came up into the air. And I have to say, it really took me by surprise, and it was very hard to watch. It was quite overwhelming to realize that so many people had died in that instant. Again, what you're looking at now are live pictures. We still have a very high smoke plume, which is going, I would say, at least 4,000, maybe 5,000 feet into the air. You can see the dark smoke there. Earlier we had light smoke, but now we have darker smoke. That darker smoke is fire, which is still burning at this point. The lighter smoke is, of course, steam, but now we're back to darker smoke again, and the smoke is blowing towards the Red Hook section of Brooklyn. Now, what you need to know about that is that we would definitely want to keep your windows closed. You definitely want to stay inside at this point. These gases, smoke is full of noxious fumes, not good for anybody to be breathing. And of course, EMT workers, fire workers, emergency workers, they all know how to deal with this type of stuff. But for people who are at home watching right now, it is a good idea to keep your windows closed, stay inside. Additionally, do not run your dishwasher, do not run your washing machine. They need all the water pressure they can get. Now, one thing I'll also tell you is that firefighters are using some unusual pieces of equipment to fight this fire. There are actually some fireboats in the water. One of them is called the Firefighter. That Firefighter is actually a very large boat which sucks water out of the river itself, and it is able to pump 11,000 gallons of water per minute. That goes to another pumper, and they do what's called a relay pump. They pump from pumper to pumper in order to get water onto the fire. Now, we, as you know, are up and flying. However, there is a no-fly zone over the entire country. All airports are closed. They are being very gracious to allow us to stay in the air and bring you these live pictures. In fact, as of now, we are the only aircraft, the only news aircraft up in the air besides military aircraft. What we also understand is that the military is setting up a high alert, and that Teterboro, along with the New Jersey State Police, are setting up a command post for medevac flights. We also know we have seen ourselves an Eagle F-15 fighter. Traditionally, they stay much higher in the air because that's how they can get a better handle on attacks and stay in better control of the airspace. However, we did see one a little lower, so we do know that they are up above us. We understand that there is a cap over the entire country where they are actually looking and making sure that we are all safe at this point. Also interesting is that the Coast Guard is on its way from all sorts of various areas in this particular surrounding area, from South Jersey as well as Long Island. Coast Guard is on its way. We also have tugboats which are in the water right now. They are also able to pump water out of the Hudson River, and we also understand that Air Force Rescue is on its way. And so, as you can well imagine, there is quite a lot of activity here. There's a lot of emergency workers on the ground, a lot of emergency stuff going on in the air as well. So the best thing that you can do at home is to stay at home, and again, don't use your water. Keep your windows closed. Another really good idea, of course, you can always call the American Red Cross and volunteer your help. You can also, of course, give blood. We understand that there are lines at the hospital of people willing to donate blood. They're going to need a lot of blood in this. If you have a rare blood type, it is a good idea, again, to go down and give blood. Now, again, the live scene that you're looking at right now is Lower Manhattan, where the Twin Towers used to stand. And again, about 9 o'clock this morning, 2 aircrafts crashed into the air towers, and now they are, of course, gone. Anyway, that's what we see here from the air. We'll give it back to you in the station.
All right, Melinda, thank you very much. We're joined now by Marvin Scott. It took you about, what, 3 hours?
A little over 3.5 hours to get here. From New Jersey. They closed a lot of the roads, and I'll have some video showing the thousands of people who are evacuating New York, trying to get back home to New Jersey. But right now, we're going to go to Sukanya Christian, who's standing by for us in Midtown. Sukanya.
Hey, Marvin and Jackie, we've been out here on 42nd Street and 2nd Avenue, and as you can see, the buses, as far as we're seeing, are getting people in, and the buses are packed, but they are moving people downtown. But you can see that 2nd Avenue is packed with people trying to get to where they need to go. We're at a pretty crucial area. If you can take a look, this is where the Israeli consulate is, and right past the Israeli consulate is also where the UN is, and this whole area is under high security, and it is pretty much a frozen zone from what we can see right now. And as police cordoned off the whole area, getting people to go away from that area. You know, we've been out here pretty much all morning talking to people, hearing firsthand testimonial as to the carnage that they witnessed, also as to the pure sheer struggle that it was to get out of Lower Manhattan. Okay, here it is. Can you see that? We've been seeing fighter jets all afternoon as we've been standing out here kind of doing flybys, kind of securing this area. It's been a very surreal kind of scene standing out here. Back to the testimonials, one person described it as pure midnight. Another person described it as a nuclear disaster, if you could imagine. The soot, trying to get out, trying to make out alive, people screaming for help, people leaning on each other, trying to get each other out of this situation. It's just been, I've been speechless all morning. But we've seen a lot of police helicopters. There's just a lot of activity out here, Marvin and Jackie. And right now, that's really the very latest. So I'm going to throw it back to you, and we'll try and get more witnesses to come and talk to us, okay?
All right, thanks, Sukanya.
people in the streets. Once I got over to New York from New Jersey, I found people just walking, and many of them just dazed, and some just sitting there on park benches, some their hands in prayer and just meditating as they look down towards that plume of smoke, which you can see from anywhere in the metropolitan area. And I started to say a moment ago, over in New Jersey around Weehawken, the ferry service over there was transporting tens of thousands of people from Manhattan one way, but no ferry boats going back to New York. The river had been closed. I managed to commandeer a small boat over at the Port Imperial gas dock, and I thank those folks, Victor Becker, who allowed me aboard his 28-foot boat to get me here today.
Marvin, we're going to go to an eyewitness now who had some words to say about what he saw this morning.
We went up to the roof and we seen one of the towers on fire. So we're up there actually watching the tower on fire, and another plane comes in and hits the other tower, and there was like a ball of flame so big I couldn't believe it. It actually, you felt it in your face.
I saw the second tower come down. I saw more than I ever wanted to see in one day.
All right, we're going to go to Washington now. Of course, Washington was hit seriously, a plane crashing into the Pentagon. We're going to go live now to Sonia Dina with the latest. Sonia.
Well, good afternoon. Here in Washington, we are still waiting to see when President Bush will return to the White House in the Washington area. We understand that the president, the first lady, the vice president, and members of Congress have been taken to secure but undisclosed locations. Now, about an hour ago, President Bush spoke from Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, and here's a bit of what he said.
Make no mistake, the United States will hunt down and punish those responsible for these cowardly acts.
Taking all appropriate security precautions to protect the American people. One of the targets of that terrorist activity was the Pentagon. About 10 o'clock Eastern time this morning, a hijacked plane crashed into a side of the Pentagon. A huge fire ensued. Part of the building then collapsed. The entire building was evacuated, all 24,000 employees. And we understand from a Pentagon spokesperson that those fires are still burning and that their focus now is on controlling the fires and also getting in touch with family members of the victims. At least 40 people were hurt in that explosion and in those fires, but we have no official word yet on fatalities. One witness said it was screaming and pandemonium. The whole building shook, and that is a huge building. So the Pentagon, out of commission at this point, evacuated. Also evacuated the White House, the old executive office building that's right next door. That's where the vice president works. The Treasury Department, Justice Department, the State Department, the U.S. Capitol, and the Supreme Court, all evacuated. There were reports this morning that there were some car bomb explosions that went off outside the State Department and the Capitol, but we have no word yet on the extent of damage or injuries. Also in D.C., monuments, museums, schools, roads have been closed. D.C. Mayor declared a state of emergency here in Washington, D.C. And finally, I just want to quote a few members of Congress who are starting to speak out about these events this morning. We're hearing things like the U.S. had no advance warning, that we are at war. According to Senator Hatch of Utah, quote, "We'll get the bastards who did this." And Senator Chuck Hagel of Nebraska called this, quote, "the second Pearl Harbor." So that is the latest here in Washington. Back to you.
Sonia, if we could just ask you a couple of questions. There were reports that a plane was brought down at Camp David. What do you know about that?
That's news to me. We were also hearing reports this morning that a plane was circling Dulles Airport, and this is right after we got word that President Bush had given the order to the U.S. military to shoot down any planes because, of course, the FAA had halted all aviation, all airline activity in the United States. Those are unconfirmed reports. We don't have any more information about them at this time.
Any word, Sonia, as to who they're pinpointing this on? A number of groups have taken responsibility for it. Some say this sounds like the work of Osama bin Laden.
That's right. That's what several members of Congress have been saying, that this has Osama bin Laden's name written all over it. There were also some reports of responsibility from Islamic Jihad. That was early this morning. The Democratic Front of Palestine. Those are all reports that were coming in a few hours ago, but we have not heard any definitive word on who might be responsible.
Sonia, thank you very much. Devastating. Awesome, that picture as we see them. We're going to go back now to Melinda Murphy, who's in Air 11. It's the only news helicopter flying over the area right now. Melinda, what can you tell us?
You're looking at live pictures of lower Manhattan where the World Trade Centers used to stand, and now, of course, just a plume of smoke and debris, which is shooting, I would say, maybe even 5,000 to 6,000 feet at this point, going straight up into the air. Of course, as the Earth heats, the smoke will go higher into the air. That's just part of physics. As you can see, there is still a lot of black smoke. Black smoke means fire, so firefighters are still battling blazes on the ground. Right in the center of your screen, you see the arches that used to be the front of the World Financial Center, and behind it is basically an empty space in what's left of the building as the World Trade Center's collapsed upon itself. Now here's what we saw. We took off just after both of these buildings had been hit by the plane, and both buildings were on fire. It was very disturbing to even see the buildings on fire at this point. Then we began to see some debris falling from the buildings, even sadly people jumping from the buildings into the streets. And then we actually saw the buildings collapse one after the other. The collapse actually looked more like an implosion. We've flown over implosions before. That's what it looked more like than the building toppling over. It kind of fell onto itself. And then not soon after that, the second building, the Tower 1, then collapsed as well. And I have to say, I've seldom as a reporter ever been so struck by something that I've seen. It was very, very disturbing. Hard to watch on TV, even harder to watch with your naked eye. It was just very disturbing. Now, of course, you see the smoke plumes into the air. The white is basically steam where they are getting some water onto these flames. And the smoke is blowing towards the east, southeast, towards the Red Hook section of Brooklyn. If you live in that area, it's a very good idea to keep your windows closed. Do not go outside. These fumes are very noxious. And again, it's a good idea to not use your water if you're in the lower section or actually anywhere in this area, because the firefighters are definitely going to need the water pressure. They are using some unique firefighting equipment this morning. There is a boat which is called the Firefighter. The Firefighter actually pumps water from the river, is capable of pumping 11,000 gallons of water per minute, and it relays it to a pumper and then to another pumper, and they do what's called a relay pump, and that's how they can get water onto this actual thing. There it is to the right of your screen, and you see the actual water coming off the boat itself. That, again, is the Firefighter, a very unique piece of firefighting equipment that we have here in Manhattan. Additionally, there are several tugboats which have come onto the scene. Now, tugboats are basically volunteering. Tugboats are also able to pump water out of the river, and they are hooking up to hoses from what we understand, or what we think from this point. It's hard to tell, again, from our vantage point, and they are pumping water as well. Now, what we mentioned from our vantage point, we are about 5 miles away. We are over, I would say, the New Jersey Turnpike at this point, just a little past that. And what I can tell you is that we are the only helicopter up at this minute. Thank you very much. They have been very kind in letting us stay up at this point to bring you these live pictures. But again, there is an entire air traffic control, basically has a no-fly zone. FAA has a no-fly zone over the entire country. They are letting us stay up. We have seen Eagle F-15s in this area. They actually fly at a much higher altitude because that's how they can better handle the air traffic and make sure that the air is being patrolled well. But again, we have seen them, so we do know that the military is here protecting the city and the surrounding area. And so that's what's going on with air traffic. As far as the roads themselves, they are basically a ghost town. We are looking at the New Jersey Turnpike and some of the other roads in this general area. There are very few cars on these roads. Most people, it seems, have gone home or gone to a place that they feel is safe. Again, as I said, very, very light traffic this morning. All the area bridges and tunnels are still closed as we understand. Subways are closed as well. And again, they are battling the blaze and the fire as you can see here on your screen. The dark smoke again is flame, which they are still battling at this point. Anyway, that's what's going on here from Air 11. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Melinda, thank you very much, and be safe up there. And I just want to point out, it's very easy while looking at these images on your television screen to want to panic, but Governor Pataki is urging all New Yorkers not to panic at this time. He's trying to get people to stay calm, and he also has called out the New York National Guard to help in recovery efforts in Manhattan. And as you can imagine, it's going to take a long time.
And also, there are 2 military vessels on the way to New York, including, I understand, the aircraft carrier John F. Kennedy. So in addition to the jet aircraft, military aircraft, Melinda says has been sighted over Manhattan. Now, while this nation and the world should be mourning, or most of the world should be mourning, what appears to be the worst terror attack ever on United States soil, there is, in one part of this world, some celebration over this horror, dastardly act. And that celebration is along the West Bank. Palestinians, I think we have video of that coming up. This going on just hours ago, right after those planes collided and slammed into the World Trade Center, bringing the two buildings down, another plane crashing into the Pentagon in Washington. This is the scene on the West Bank among Palestinians. Of course, there's been mounting violence there over the past number of months in the continuing conflict with Israel. There have been many threats of terror. Some groups taking responsibility, including the Islamic Jihad and the Front for Palestine. However, some top military officials believe that this well-executed terror attack is the work of renegade terrorist Osama bin Laden, who has been elusive, and there is a price on his head. We've tried to get him, but unsuccessfully.
Right, and it's very sad, but just last month, those images were very similar after the bombing in Jerusalem, if you'll remember it, that pizzeria. Images in Palestine were pretty similar to that, and we want to go right now.
And this one magnified many, many times over, sadly.
And we want to go right now to Florida. We've got some pictures from before when President Bush received news of the planes.
He's getting word here. Take a look on the shock on his face when he learned that the planes had crashed into the World Trade Center. Obviously, the same emotion all of us felt at the moment we heard that. Just simply unbelievable. And the gasp we've been hearing all morning, the gasp.
Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act.
President Bush right now on the way back to Washington to lead the effort and the investigation from the White House.
Yeah, we're going to go to Larry Hoff right now. He's at City Hall with the latest of what's going on there. Larry? Larry, can you hear us? You're at City Hall right now? Can you tell us what's going on right now,
And
Larry?
everybody live all day long here outside City Hall. You can see the plume of smoke, which is thinning considerably from 2 hours earlier, but still blocking out the sun. And workers coming out of the financial district in a steady stream, and that has been unrelenting. We're not allowed to move any farther south. We can probably go a block. That is about it. And forces are up right now to stop anybody from going in there other than those who are authorized. Somebody who got in earlier and is coming out, your last name, Luigi?
Luigi Scorsia.
Now, Luigi, you've been almost to ground zero. You're saying that the trade towers are still burning. What's left of them?
Okay, what's left is the base of tower number 1, but they're going to tear it down any minute. There's nothing there. It's been devastated. I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like this. Dust everywhere. The fire trucks are incinerated. Cop cars. And the buildings across the street, all the windows have been shattered. You got to see it. It's.
I don't know if we do want to see it right now, but we will.
Because it's unbelievable.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, the catastrophe is probably beyond what most people can imagine right now. Now, what sort of efforts are going on? Is it rescue efforts, triage, where the medical personnel is set up, or is it something where they're just kind of standing by and having to wait?
Okay. All I've seen is the firemen. They're working real hard. I brought some water for them. I saw no bodies go out. There has to be. I don't know what to say.
Just say it.
There has to be casualties, but I didn't see any.
Yeah.
And the buildings across the street from the West Side Highway, they're concerned about tumbling down.
Now, which side are you talking about? West?
West of the West Side Highway. All right, those apartment buildings there, and all those windows were blown out. God forbid if there was people in those apartments. And when I was over on the other side, they were taking people, from I heard from other people, across the water to hospitals in New Jersey.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I
All right,
appreciate you
thank you.
joining us and try to get some water. You know, it's a hot one down here, and the people again continue just to parade on through. Not seeing the same number of people that we did earlier, the soot-covered ones, you know, walking through, but it has been, you know, a numbed crowd here. I think that is the impression I come away with, you guys. The experience here is there is that anger coming out of this, but most people seem to be very numb, very unemotional right now, walking by us trying to make their way out of here. No public transportation right here. People all have to migrate north or move across the Brooklyn Bridge. Some buses are going out there. Swing on over just for a second. This crowd has died down considerably. They actually had the outbound lanes or the eastbound lanes of the Brooklyn Bridge open to foot traffic. That's really thinned out right now, and you can see the numbers still continuing though. It hasn't let up that dramatically, just not going to Brooklyn. But everybody, where can I catch a train? Where can I catch a bus? How do I get out of here? I'll send it back to you now.
All right,
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much. And there are really no buses or trains running right now, and most of the tunnels, or all of the tunnels and the bridges
are still
closed. They're all
closed until further notice. They just want to make sure that there is no additional problem and want to make sure everything is secure. And as Larry pointed out, people are numb. They're dazed. They're walking. It's totally a feeling of disbelief and shock. And he did mention that they were taking some of the injured over to New Jersey because the hospitals are so crowded here. Over on the other side of Weehawken, and I noticed them setting up a triage area
and of course
bringing
all doctors and nurses have been called in.
That's right.
Across the
So they have the
state.
hospitals on the other side in New Jersey also standing by. This has been a frightful morning. All beginning to unfold about 9 o'clock. We have a composite of video which will show you in all too horrible detail just what happened. Take a look.
Now, we will be hearing from Mayor Giuliani shortly and Police Commissioner Bernard Carrick.
They're moved it at an undisclosed location,
right.
all for security. And as we saw that scene, no doubt the casualty, the number will be high. We have no idea at this point. Many people have been rushed to hospitals, and it's just
frightening
totally
for the
unbelievable.
people that are at home wondering where their loved one is at this time.
I saw people trying to get over here from New Jersey crying, my daughter's there, my daughter's there, and there was no access to get across into Manhattan.
It's got to be frightening.
And the telephones are also out because...
That's right. A lot
Yes.
of telephones are out. We're going to take a look now at the planes that have been identified. You're looking at American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to Los Angeles. That jet was hijacked after takeoff with 92 people aboard, and Flight 77, which was seized while carrying 64 people from Washington to Los Angeles. And then in Pennsylvania, United Airlines Flight 93, a Boeing 757, was en route from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco. It crashed about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh with 45 people aboard. And then United said another of its planes, Flight 175, a Boeing 767 bound from Boston to Los Angeles with 65 people aboard. And there are a couple of telephone numbers that you should be aware of at this hour. American Airlines has a hotline number. That's 1-800-245-0999. And then United Airlines, 1-800-932-8555.
Sukanya Christian has been standing by in Midtown all morning. Let's go to her now. Sukanya.
Marvin, like you and Jackie have been saying all morning, this catastrophe is hard to imagine. And one person that was pretty much in the thick of it is Ryan Delatese, who's 23 years old. You were in one of the towers. Ryan, can you just take us back to you were actually looking outside, enjoying the view of the Statue of Liberty when this all happened. Can you take us back to that moment?
I was on the phone with my mom. We were on break. It was like 8:45 in the morning. We were on break, and all of a sudden, I was just telling my mom how jealous she should be because I'm looking at the Statue of Liberty, and all this paper. It was just paper on fire, like was falling on the side of the window in a big cloud of smoke. And then I said, I think something exploded. I think there's a plane crash. And like my mom's like, don't be ridiculous. And
were you in the tower that the plane actually hit, or were you in another tower?
I haven't seen the TV yet, so I don't really know which one it hit. So they told us to come back into the conference room and stay calm. And then as one of our managers was telling us to stay calm, somebody came through and said it was time to, get out. And then we're on the 61st floor, and we walked down. There's express elevators, but we just had to walk the whole floor down, and then we were about the 22nd floor, and then all of a sudden, it just, everything shook. All shaking, like holding on, and just, it was ridiculous. And then this lady beside me just praying and holding my hand, and, and I said, everybody was calm. Everybody just like, we're going to get out of this alive. We haven't lost anybody. We're going to get out. And they called out the numbers as we went down, 22, 21, 20, 19. And then we were out.
And when you came out, what was the time frame from when one of the towers actually imploded?
We walked out at 8:45, and then next time I looked at my clock, because my phone was out of service, and that's my only watch. It was probably 10:30. But
did you see it go down?
Oh no, we were sitting. There's like a big waterfall out front, and we were on the other side of it, and I was helping this older lady get together and gather her things. She needed some water, and there was like a blimpie right there, and I went in, they gave me some water, and all of a sudden people just started running, and the whole street filled up with black smoke, and then we ran, and we're here. And
Ryan, you wanted to tell your mother that you're doing okay. You can just
yeah, Mom, Dad, I love you. I'm happy. I'm okay.
You're
feel
okay.
like a nerd. But
you're okay. You're not a nerd. All right. We're glad that you're okay. Thank you for sharing time with us. All right. We just want to get you up to date on what's going on. Actually, the commute. A lot of people are trying to get out of the city. So, Marvin, this is the very latest from what we're hearing. Route 80 eastbound is closed. Route 3 near Giant Stadium is also temporarily closed. The LIRR coming into and out of Penn Station, temporarily no service. Subway service into and out of Manhattan also temporarily suspended. We were talking about the few buses that we have been seeing here on 2nd Avenue picking up people. And as you can see, there's a couple of buses that are passing by us right now. They are picking up people, very few people, but it's limited service, just going uptown and going downtown. What they are urging you to do is to take the waterways if you can. Take the ferry, take the fast ferries if you can get near there. The New Jersey Turnpike, it's very light traffic. And also, a lot of people are asking me, are the bridges open? Can I walk over the Brooklyn Bridge? Can I walk over the 59th Street Bridge? All morning, we've been telling you that the area bridges and tunnels are closed. Now we're even telling you that it's closed to pedestrian traffic. So that's really the very latest on this community, is people trying to come to grips with what's going on here today and try to get home safely. So we'll keep you up to date out here on the street. Back to you, Jackie and Marvin.
Tanya,
Thank
no
you,
matter
Tanya.
how many times you look at those pictures.
I'm
it's
seeing
almost
some of
hard
these
to-
for the first time because I had an odyssey trying to get in here today from New Jersey, and seeing them, it just sickens you to your inside. You feel an emptiness, and there aren't words that can correctly describe it. I know looking at it just now, it looked like something I wanted to say. It was special effects from some Hollywood extravaganza, but unfortunately this is all too real. And those twin towers going down this morning, and 2 airliners crashing into them, and people throughout the morning, we've heard the words over and over again, oh my God, just total disbelief.
And
And
you're looking at the pictures there again, Marvin.
it's in this is in
Now,
slow
this is
motion.
before the other tower was attacked, so if you keep watching. There's
Okay,
the plane.
let's go. We understand the mayor and police commissioner are about to speak. Let's go to them right now.
Good afternoon. Today is obviously one of the most difficult days in the history of the city and the country. The tragedy that we're all undergoing right now is something that we've had nightmares about, but probably thought wouldn't happen. My heart goes out to all of the innocent victims of this horrible and vicious acts of terrorism. And our focus now has to be on saving as many lives as possible. We have hundreds of police officers and firefighters who are engaging in rescue efforts in Lower Manhattan. I want to thank Governor Pataki for the incredible cooperation and coordination, and including deploying the National Guard that will be available to relieve our police officers and firefighters and emergency workers in the next couple of hours. The governor and I just spoke to the President of the United States. The coordination with the federal government from the time of the first attack has been excellent, including closing off the airspace around Manhattan and doing everything that can possibly be done in the face of this barbaric act to make the city secure. And we will strive now very hard to save as many people as possible and to send a message that the city of New York and the United States of America is much stronger than any group of barbaric terrorists, that our democracy, that our rule of law, that our strength and our willingness to defend ourselves will ultimately prevail. And I'd ask the people of New York City to do everything that they can to cooperate, not to be frightened, to go about their lives as normal. Everything is safe right now in the city, and the people who are doing the relief effort need all the help they can get. And then, Governor, thank you very much for your assistance and your help and your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership through this crisis. This is a vicious attack upon New York. It's an attack upon America. It's an attack upon the whole concept of freedom and our way of life. And we cannot let these attacks succeed. The first step has to be to make sure we do everything in our power to protect the people and to save the lives of those whose lives are still at risk and to help those who have been injured. And I want to commend the mayor, and I want to thank my colleagues from Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and the federal government have all offered and made ready support to help us deal with this ongoing crisis. The people of New York are not only the freest and most diverse people in the world, we're also, I believe, the most capable of rising to meet the challenges of this type of attack. And right now we want New Yorkers to remain calm, to go about their business, to appreciate the fact that everything to provide for their safety is being done, to appreciate that everything that can be done to provide for the health and the needs of the people who are still at risk is being done, and that we will continue to work to make sure that we get through this as strongly and quickly as possible. I want to thank the federal administration. Secretary Thompson has been on the phone with me a number of times, as well as the President, for what they are offering and prepared to do. And we're just confident that, while this is a horrible attack and one that is despicable and really unthinkable in its magnitude, we will get through this, and we will continue to have a great and free country, state, and society.
Do we know the number of casualties at this point, sir?
I don't think we really want to speculate about that. The number of casualties will be more than any of us can bear ultimately. And I don't think we want to speculate on the number of casualties. The effort now has to be to save as many people as possible. And I don't think we will know the answer to that until sometime tomorrow or the next day.
Were there large numbers of firefighters?
There are a large number of firefighters and police officers who are in harm's way. And we don't know how many we've lost. But there's no doubt we've lost some firefighters and police officers.
Do you know anything about the cause of the explosions that brought the two buildings down yet? Was it caused by the planes or by something else?
We believe that it was caused by the after effects of the planes hitting the buildings. We don't know of an additional explosion after that.
Could you tell us, do you expect any further attacks on New York? Is there anything to indicate that there could be more bombs, more planes out there? I know originally there was a report that 8 planes had been hijacked, 4 have only been accounted for. What about the remaining 4? And is there any possibility that there could be bombs on the ground planted by some?
We have no specific information to that effect. Obviously, the city is now closed. The airspace around the city is closed, and we are on heightened alert. But we have no specific information suggesting any further attack.
Can you tell us where the planes came from?
Major warships coming into the port of New York.
I think to give the people of New York confidence, to show that the federal government is standing with us, and to just to make certain that nothing further happens. This has been a very, very difficult and traumatic day for the people of the United States and the people of the city. And I think that it's an act that shows that the federal government is going to do everything they can to support us and help us.
Can you give us an idea of the extent of the rescue effort that's going on right now in Lower Manhattan? The scope of this operation?
There are over 1,000 rescue workers, probably about 2,000 that are deployed, trying to get into the buildings, trying to find people, trying to search for people. The governor and I spoke a couple of hours ago. The governor has deployed the National Guard to relieve them because our people are going to need reinforcements pretty soon. But right now they don't want to leave because they're searching for innocent citizens, and they're searching for some of their brothers and sisters.
Are you finding survivors?
Yes, we have some numbers that we can give you. We have 1,500 people at Liberty State Park who were evacuated, described as walking wounded. They were evacuated by ferry and other means. There are about 600, as of about 15 minutes ago, in local hospitals that we account for, 600 people that are being treated in local hospitals. And there are 150 in particular that were critical, that were moved by EMS. New York City has 170 hospitals. So we have a lot of hospitals, and we're utilizing all of them. Probably the one that was the hardest hit was St. Vincent's Hospital. And I would like to just single them out and commend them, because as I was rushing down there, after the first plane hit, and before the second, they were already deploying people on the street. I could see the doctors and nurses outside getting ready to receive people. And that was before the second plane actually hit the World Trade Center.
What was your experience down there?
Also blood donations. We have several sites for blood donations. 153 East 53rd Street, 66th in Amsterdam, which is the Red Cross, and 310 East 67th Street. If people want to do something and they can donate blood, that's going to help not just today, but tomorrow and the next day. This relief effort is going to take some time.
Mr. Mayor, you were one of the first people down there. Can you describe the scene in your own words, what you saw down there?
I don't know that I'm really able to describe it. It was the most horrific scene I've ever seen in my whole life. We saw the World Trade Center in flames, a big gaping hole all the way on the top of it. We could see people jumping from the top of the building. And then we went into Barclay Street, 75 Barclay Street, I think it was, and we were there when the building collapsed, and it collapsed in part on 75 Barclay Street. So we were trapped in the building for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, trying to get out different exits. And we finally went through a basement and came out 100 Park Place.
Did you ever fear for your own safety, sir?
Sure, yeah.
What went through your mind?
I don't think anything went through my mind other than making sure that we all remained calm and found an exit and just tried to figure out the most intelligent thing to do. Probably the same thing that went through the minds of 10,000 other New Yorkers who I could see on the streets, and I really have to commend them. If you really want to know what New Yorkers are all about, you just watch the way in which they handle themselves. They didn't panic. They moved deliberately. They moved swiftly. But they didn't hurt each other. They helped each other. I mean, these are just the most wonderful people in the world.
Do we know anything about the composition of that dust that blankets Lower Manhattan? Is there any asbestos or any hazardous material in that dust?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Mr. Mayor, I got reports
a gas explosion related to this as well. Are you aware of that? There was a gas leak or possible explosion.
We don't believe it. We don't believe that's the case. No.
Mr. Mayor, can you tell us anything about where the planes come from, where the aircraft came from?
Bill Diamond reminds me that we've turned off the gas in the city buildings, just to be certain.
Can you tell us
as a precaution
about where these aircraft came from? There was a report they may have been hijacked in Boston.
I think we should leave. I think we should leave that up to the federal government to yes, we do have some information, but I think we should leave that up to the federal government to release that information. Our focus is on the relief efforts. And
Governor,
What about security for the rest of the
there
city
should be any
now that this is
retaliation on the
happening?
part of the United States for what happened here in this country, both in New York, Washington, and other places?
First step right now, Marcia, is to make sure we do everything to help those people who need our support, and whether they're injured or still trapped in buildings. The second thing is to make sure at the same time we're providing the maximum security against possible additional incidents. But clearly, this is an attack upon America. It's an attack upon our freedom and our way of life, and we must retaliate and go after those who perpetuated this heinous crime against the people of America.
Mayor, this is just compared to Pearl Harbor. Do you consider this to be an act of war? This has been compared.
I'll do both.
This has been compared to Pearl Harbor. Do you consider this to be an act of war?
This is a vicious, unprovoked, horrible attack on innocent men, women, and children. It's one of the most heinous acts, certainly in world history. And as the governor said, and I said to the president, we fully and completely support him in any action that he has to take in order to make an example out of the people who are responsible for this.
Is it an act of war in your mind?
I don't know that I want to use those words. I think the president is the one that has to respond, and I think what he has to know is that all of us in New York support him and support him completely in the efforts that he's going to have to make over the next couple of days, week, and to make a point that that people can't do this. You can't attack innocent men, women, and children. And ultimately, I'm totally confident that American democracy and the American rule of law will prevail. And the people of New York are going to help to demonstrate that over the next couple of days.
Anybody take responsibility for this? Any group take responsibility at this time? And what is the city doing to safeguard the citizens now that something like this has happened?
Well, first of all, I don't know of anyone that's taken responsibility for it at this time. And secondly, the New York City Police Department is fully deployed, not just in the rescue effort, but all throughout the city of New York, offering as much protection and as much security as we're capable of for the citizens of the city. And at this point, I believe that the people in New York City can demonstrate our resolve and our support for all of the people that were viciously attacked today by going about their lives and showing everyone that vicious, cowardly terrorists can't stop us from being a free country and a place that functions. And we'll do everything we can to make that point.
Jennifer Steinauer, please. Just a housekeeping. Can you please tell us what's going to happen to the New York primary?
This morning, I issued an order suspending the primary across the state. There will be no primary today, and we'll reschedule it once we get through this.
Jennifer,
Can you
please.
please walk us through the municipal services right now? What's going on with the subways and the schools, the courts?
The subway, the schools, the chancellor, I commend the chancellor. He was on the phone a number of times with us. He coordinated very, very carefully what would happen. He thought it out, and he came up with a very good plan, which was essentially to keep the schools open, to keep the children in school, so we didn't have a large number of children in the different boroughs that would be released from school. They're being released, I shouldn't say as normal, but basically on the normal schedule. If parents aren't there to pick up the young children, then the children will be taken to a center, and the parents will be notified to come and pick them up. The children who have Metro cards, who normally travel on the subway, will be able to do that. The subways are functioning in 4 of the 5 boroughs, and can we get an update, Joe, on how the subway's doing in Manhattan?
All the lettered lines are working.
And in Manhattan?
In Manhattan lines, all the lettered lines.
All the lettered lines are working, including in Manhattan. And throughout the rest of the city, public transportation is normal. So the children should be able to return from school in the normal fashion. And if any children don't have parents to pick them up, then we'll hold them, let the parents know, and then the parents can come and pick them up.
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned you were on Barclay Street. What's the radius of damage that's been affected? How many other side streets around the world?
I don't think we know yet. The whole area of Lower Manhattan has been very much affected by it.
How many police and fire involved? How many police and fire are involved? Like how many all NYPD off-duty officers as they come in, or like
All NYPD and FDNY officers are on duty now, and we're going to need all of them. And again, thanks to the governor and the way in which the state reacted, we will have 1,600 National Guard to relieve them over a period of time, so we can get some relief for them.
If anybody's looking for someone that may have been in the World Trade Center or in and around that area, what should they do? How can they get information?
We're going to give you numbers so that we can try to help coordinate that. Individual businesses have already done that, but we will as soon as we can find some time from the relief efforts, give you a number in which people can call, and then we can direct them to the right place.
the National Guard loading or anything like that? Any lawlessness?
There have been no reports of lawlessness, no reports of looting. As I said, we saw a lot of people that were part of the escape effort, and they seem to be conducting themselves in a very, very sensible way, a very deliberate way. They seem to be helping each other. So I don't think we have any reports like that at all.
So the only National Guard we'll see will be in Lower Manhattan in the bomb site area. They won't be patrolling the rest of Manhattan.
No, the purpose of it is to help with the relief effort. We're gonna need the help of the state, surrounding areas with heavy duty equipment.
When will they be arriving?
National Guard troops, some have arrived already, and we expect to have up to close to 2,000 between the National Guard and the state police by later this evening.
Mayor, bridges and tunnels will have to stay closed indefinitely?
Bridges, I think everything is closed for now. And then maybe in about an hour or two, we can give you an update on what the plan will be for tomorrow.
We saw a lot of lightly injured people walking out of the area because obviously the emergency services were needed for the very seriously injured. People covered with dust, some people had difficulty breathing. Is there any health advice to give to people who are caught in this thing, who are not necessarily at risk of losing their life, but
I think
covered with dust?
well, obviously, if you feel ill or you feel that you've been affected by it, you should go to a hospital and get checked out. But if it's just discomfort that you feel, then you can do basically what we did, was to wash our faces off and get rid of the clothes and get to an area where you can breathe in fresh air.
How many people were in the World Trade Center at the time of this attack?
I mean, it was business had already started. It was
So what's normal
right before 9 o'clock.
capacity?
I don't know. I don't know.
Tens of thousands?
Yes. Approximately. Someone just gave me a number of approximately 10,000, but that's a guess.
How long will the city remain on a heightened state of alert?
Until we're told not to. I mean, until the FBI and the police department and the federal government tells us that we shouldn't. Right now, the city is should be on a state of alert. Now, instead of frightening people, that should make people feel more confident that everything is being done to keep things secure. And again, let me emphasize that the reason for the National Guard, because I heard the question before, is to help with the relief effort, not because there's any fear of any other problems in the city right now.
How is the
Mr.
Port
Mayor, can you
Authority
tell us
certain
about
kinds of
the
buildings,
other
Mr.
public
Mayor?
buildings, City Hall, One Police Plaza? When will she say for you to return? to
I don't know
City
yet.
Hall?
I don't know yet. Hopefully soon, but I don't know the answer to that.
And we heard reports that One Police Plaza was evacuated. Was that true?
No, the command center is open.
And it was never.
We have people in the command center right now.
Mr.
never
Mayor,
was
there
evacuated.
have also been reports of large loss of life among the police and firemen who were sent there to rescue people. How accurate are those reports?
There is no question that we lost police officers and firefighters, and some that I know personally, and all of us here know personally, that we're very worried about. And we're not going to know the answer to that until much later. And maybe we should just close now and give you a briefing later. And I would just ask everyone, I talked to Cardinal Egan before, because he's at St. Vincent's Hospital. Everybody should, in their own way, say a prayer and ask God for help and for assistance, and also ask God to give us the strength to overcome this, because I know we're going to need strength to overcome it. And I want the people of New York to be an example to the rest of the country and the rest of the world that terrorism can't stop us. American democracy is much stronger than a vicious, cowardly terrorist, and we're going to overcome this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, Mayor.
Do we know when the next briefing will be?
An hour and a half?
An hour and a half?
Yeah, probably.
All right, that was Mayor Giuliani speaking for the first time
Along-
live, along with Governor Pataki, Police Commissioner Bernard Carrick, and
Tom
Fire
Van
Commissioner
Essen.
Tom Van Essen.
And as he said, this is a nightmare we thought never would happen, and for the first time we've heard about casualties, no numbers attached to that, but Mayor Giuliani did say, and here we quote, "The number of casualties will be more than we can bear ultimately." And he said a large number of fire and policemen, police officers were in harm's way and among the casualties today. He also said that the city is closed. Airspace is closed, the city on a heightened alert, all to show New Yorkers confidence that we are in control of the situation. He also appealed for calm and for prayers, and also he said that New York would stand strong to prove that we will not be impacted and stopped by terrorist acts.
Marvin, he did give some sketchy numbers about some of the wounded. He had about 1,500 people
Right.
at Liberty State Park. He described them as the walking wounded. Also about 600 in local hospitals. And he also let New Yorkers know there's about 170 hospitals in New York City. So he says that we can take care of this catastrophe. Also about 150 people, critical people, have been moved by EMS. And he also mentioned that some of the wounded and possibly those who did not make it are police and firefighters who were in and around the building trying to rescue others when they themselves became victims of this terrible, terrible tragedy. Also, he did say that subways are functioning again.
Yes,
all
he
the
said in
letter
all five
lines
boroughs, all the letter lines are running again.
and public transportation. They're also The schools commissioner is keeping kids in school, and he said that they will be released at about the regular time. Isn't that what he said? About
That's
regular
right.
time?
Right.
And parents should come, school's chancellor said that parents should come and pick up their children. If they are not picked up by their parents, then they will be kept over in a center until the parents can come and get them. Of course, children who have Metro cards and get home by themselves are being allowed to leave by
He
themselves.
also said that the mayor and the governor have both spoken with President Bush, who has pledged all his support at this time. And he said it's very important to send a message that New York and the United States is much stronger than any group of barbaric terrorists. There is an urgent need for blood. We have a number for you. If we could put that up on the screen right now. Blood is desperately needed in New York. Please call this number, 1-800-933-2566. 150 people, according to Mayor Giuliani, are critically injured. That's the number known at the moment. 600 others at local hospitals and 1,500 described by the mayor as the walking wounded down at Liberty State Park. He said right now the focus that we should be paying is on saving as many lives as possible.
He is also urging New Yorkers to be calm at this time. I know it's very difficult when you see what's going on around you, but he is urging New Yorkers to try and stay calm and not to panic. It'll only make the situation a lot more difficult.
And he also said that gas has been shut off and city buildings weren't clear if they were city government buildings or all buildings throughout the city until this crisis is over, a crisis he called a vicious, unprovoked attack on innocent men and women, the most heinous attack in world history, and that it is indeed. I believe Melinda Murphy, are we ready to go back to Melinda up in Air 11? Melinda, you're still the only news helicopter aloft right now, and you've been with us doing a yeoman's job for the past several hours, keeping us abreast of
You're looking at live pictures of Lower Manhattan, where the World Trade Centers once stood, now replaced by a large plume of smoke, which goes, I would say, probably 5,000 or 6,000 feet into the air at this point. As you can see, the smoke has now become white, which is a good sign. That means that more smoke is white smoke is steam, and that means water getting onto the fire. However, there is still a lot of dark smoke in there, and that, of course, means that things are still burning on the ground here. The smoke is now going more up into the air instead of out over the areas, but it's still a very good idea to keep your windows closed at this point because this smoke is very noxious. You're not sure exactly what's in that smoke. Of course, there's some jet fuel in there as well as other things, so it's definitely a good idea to keep your windows closed. What you can see is that there is still a lot of...
That plume of smoke is billowing still to this hour. The dark smoke indicates fire is still burning, and it's rising as high as 4,000 feet, we understand. You can see it from everywhere in the tri-state area, and wherever you look at it and you see it, it just sickens you to the stomach.
Days, maybe weeks before things calm down there.
Okay.
We're going to go to Sonia Diener now. She's live in Washington with an update possibly on President Bush and what he has planned. Sonia?
Hi, good afternoon. We are still waiting to see when President Bush will be heading back here to Washington, D.C. We understand that the President, the First Lady, the Vice President, and members of Congress are at secure but undisclosed locations. We don't know where, and we don't know when he's coming back. Now, about 2 hours ago, President Bush spoke from Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, and here's a little bit of what he said.
Make no mistake, the United States will hunt down and punish those responsible for these cowardly acts.
President Bush also saying that the U.S. is taking all appropriate security precautions to protect the American people. He also said the U.S. military is on high alert. Let's show you the Pentagon now. About 10 o'clock Eastern time this morning, a apparently hijacked commercial airplane crashed into the Pentagon, into a section of the Pentagon that has a helipad area on top. There was a fire, there were some secondary explosions, then part of the building collapsed. Some 24,000 employees from the Pentagon were evacuated. We understand that at least 50 people were injured in that explosion and fire. No official word yet on fatalities. And we understand that those fires are still burning. We do have a live picture to show you of the Pentagon now. Fire still burning, but not as severe. And you can really get a feel for the extent of the damage there. A Pentagon spokesperson said that many people felt a thud when the this plane crashed into the building, and that's really saying something because the Pentagon is huge. Other witnesses saying there was screaming and pandemonium and that the whole building shook. We also understand that Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld is still at the Pentagon. He is in the National Military Command Center, a secure location. Here in Washington, it is a virtual ghost town here. Most people have cleared out. The White House has been evacuated, Treasury Department, State Department, Justice Department, the U.S. Capitol, and the Supreme Court building. Really, all federal buildings have been evacuated. And real quickly, we have a new piece of news about that apparently hijacked plane that crashed in Pennsylvania. A Virginia congressman, Jim Moran, Virginia, says that that plane was apparently headed for the presidential retreat at Camp David. And Congressman Moran says he got his information at a Marine Corps briefing earlier today. Again, Moran says that that hijacked plane that went down in Somerset, Pennsylvania, and western Pennsylvania, apparently was meant to crash at Camp David in the mountains of Maryland. So that is the latest on that crash, and that's the latest situation here in Washington. Again, still waiting to see when President Bush will be returning to the White House. Back to you.
Such a horror. Sonia, I know most of the town is evacuated, but any word from anyone you've spoken to about how we were so vulnerable? There, only weeks ago, there had been words that Osama bin Laden had been planning some massive attack against the United States. Any
well,
indication?
Some members of Congress have been speaking out, saying our defenses were down, we were vulnerable, we were just lulled into a false sense of security. Some of those members of Congress saying that we just got no advance warning, and the rhetoric is getting very intense. Some congressmen saying we are at war, others calling this a second Pearl Harbor. Senator Hatch of Utah said we're going to get the bastards who did this. But no one has claimed, or the FBI says it has received no official claim of responsibility, so we still don't know who did this.
Okay, Sonia, thank you very much. Still too early to get the definitive word on that. Many groups, many terrorist groups linked to terrorists have claimed responsibility, including the Islamic Jihad, groups linked to Osama bin Laden, and the Front for Palestine as well.
That's right. And Marvin, right now we're going to go live to Glenn Thompson. He's at Bellevue Hospital where some casualties are being taken. Glenn, what can you tell us at this hour?
Well, Jackie, at this point, all of the hospital's 700 to 800 physicians have been called in here to handle this emergency. We're told the most severe traumas are being brought here. At this point, there are 20 major injuries. 120 patients have minor injuries, most of those smoke inhalation, and there are 2 DOAs. Now, Linda Minervin works downtown in the Woolworth building and was injured. She's going to describe to you now in her own words what happened. You were where were you in the subway?
I was coming out of the subway on Broadway in Nassau.
And what happened?
When I came out, I saw the towers there was a plane sticking out of one side of the tower. And there were literally people throwing things through the windows and jumping from the windows. I guess they thought that was their only option. They were going to jump out or they were going to be blown to pieces. And I tried to get away from going away. I twisted my ankle. I had an asthma attack because I couldn't breathe. And all I could see was a big ball of smoke behind me. I never want to go through it again. It really gives me second thoughts about working in the city. My first job in Manhattan, and probably will be my last. It's not sitting well with me at all.
Let's get a shot to see if I'm what's your name, ma'am?
Linda.
Linda, what's your last name? Okay, now one thing the hospital desperately needs right now is blood. They've set up a makeshift blood donation center in the lobby of Bellevue Hospital, so if you can give blood, you're being asked to come down and do your part in helping out. Jackie, Marvin.
Okay, Glenn, thank you very much for that report. I'm joined now by Mary Murphy, who has been out in town. And what is the scene you've seen the last couple of hours?
Well, I know as soon as this happened about 9 o'clock, I was called desperately by this woman, Sally DeLeo, in Staten Island. Her husband, Vito, survived the World Trade Center bombing in 1993. He was at Ground Zero and crawled out of the rubble. She called me to hear if I heard anything because she said if Vito had a way to get to a phone, he would get to a phone. So she was crying, and I tried to reach him on his beeper. It wasn't working, of course, because most of the telephones were out of service. And then we found out a couple of hours later that he was right near an exit when this happened. So Vito DeLeo did get out, original survivor from the 1993 World Trade Center bombing.
Remember
and of
his
course,
story.
coming in from Queens, everything was shut down.
You had to come across, you walked across the bridge.
Yes, I walked across the 59th Street Bridge, much like Jackie did. I was on the number 7 train in Flushing, told us to get off the train. Then I walked a few blocks, we got a bus, we had to get off the bus, and then finally I hitchhiked. I've never done that in my life. Made it to Queens Plaza and over the bridge, and there were thousands of people flooding the bridge coming from Manhattan into Queens. And there were some people heading into Manhattan with me as well. You know, of course, that firemen and police officers were asked to come in. Any emergency personnel who were off duty were asked to come in and help
And as
out.
Mayor Giuliani said, it's just an incomprehensible nightmare that we thought we never would see, that never would happen. We're going to go to Sukanya Krishna now, who's been standing by for us in Midtown. Sukanya.
Right here on 2nd and 42nd, you can see that this area, they have actually brought in trucks over here with sand. Before there was a bus that was blocking the way, but as you can see, they are heightening up security. You know, we've been sitting out here pretty much all day talking to a lot of people, and there's a sense that this isn't happening. A lot of people are walking by just trying to make sense of this, and it's really been unreal. A lot of people have been talking about the people that have died. There are a lot of emotions on the street too. A lot of people who are angry. A man just walked by just now screaming for profanities, trying to make sense of what's happening. And really, I had no answers for him. All morning long, we've been talking to witnesses who made it out of that carnage that was Lower Manhattan. I've been listening to Melinda Murphy describe what was where the Twin Towers stood. Also, a lot of people are trying to get out of Manhattan, and though the crowds have thinned out some, we just want to update you on what is functioning. Speaking of subways, according to the mayor, the subways are all functioning in all 4 boroughs. In Manhattan, though, it's only the letter lines that are working uptown and downtown. Also, the bridges and tunnels at this point do remain closed. Pedestrians also are not able to walk across these bridges, as far as we're told. Marvin, I know it took you were saying about 3 hours to get in. We've been here all morning. We actually watched this unfold, and there's really a sense of numbness. I guess that's the only way to explain this numbness. Can I talk to you? You've been here, and what's going through your mind?
Just total chaos and upset. I'm so upset about what's going on. The whole city is just up in arms.
What have you been seeing as you've been walking
just
around?
People, everyone crying around me. I live up on 57th Street. The bridge is completely packed. People are hitchhiking, and everyone's just pitching in and helping each other. People are picking up people, pregnant ladies on the side of the road, taking them over the bridge just to get them home.
It's almost an unreal, surreal feeling that you're experiencing.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's like total shock. The whole city's in total shock.
I guess that's the best way to put it. The whole city is in total shock. You can see over here as well, people have been listening to radios. The payphone all morning long has been filled with people. You can see it's thinning out. People have been on cell phones trying to get in touch with loved ones, trying to talk to them, tell them that they're okay. So, you know, we're trying to get the information out there, and that's really the very latest here. As we stand here on the corner of the Israeli consulate and the UN, where things are pretty much status quo. Also, Marvin, I would like to point out to you that all morning long we have been seeing F-16s pass by here. Maybe you can give us some insight as to what that is all about. So I throw it back to you.
Well, thank you, Sukanya. Our understanding is that the city is under military surveillance, and the support is being brought in, as promised by President Bush, to the governor and the mayor. As they said a few moments ago, they have all the support from the president. And also, I understand 2 warships are on the way to New York, including one of them, the aircraft carrier John F. Kennedy. You use the word numbness from so many people. Mary and I are sitting here. We remember so vividly the World Trade Center explosion in 1993. And there was that emptiness we felt inside immediately after that. And as horrendous as that was, and there were 6 people killed, we look at this today and we see those pictures of those 2 buildings coming down. Surreal is the word. It is sickening. It is I mean, the
looks
emotion.
like a movie. It looks
Right.
like
I said that before. It looks like a special effect, a digital effect in some motion picture coming out of Hollywood, but not real. And unfortunately, it is all too real. And we have no numbers on the casualties. Mayor Giuliani said a few moments ago, right now we got to focus on saving as many people as possible. But he said the number of casualties, quote, will be more than we can bear ultimately, and including a number of firefighters and police officers who were trying to save people there.
We're going to another live shot now out on the field. Lolita Lopez, I believe, is near the 59th Street Bridge where, as I mentioned before, thousands and thousands of people were trying to empty out of Manhattan and get home to the outer boroughs. Lolita.
Lolita, go ahead. Can you hear us, Lolita? Okay, I guess Lolita cannot hear us. Let's go to a piece of video which I shot this morning as I tried to get over here from New Jersey. The city virtually is closed. This is a shot in Weehawken. Tens of thousands of people. You can see the sight of the plume of smoke from the World Trade Center. They're arriving in Weehawken. They sent emergency services from New Jersey communities. They were going to set up a triage area at the ferry terminal. They were going to bring some of the injured across. The river was virtually closed except for the ferry going in one direction. There is a boat I managed to commandeer, and God bless you, Victor Becker, because he took me aboard and brought me over to Manhattan, where he owns the party boat, the Horizon. He was making that available to the thousands of people trying to leave town. And this was the scene in Lower Manhattan around 23rd Street. Take a look at the lineup of ambulances. They went down from that point all the way down to the World Trade Center area. The sight, absolutely unbelievable. Every time I saw that plume of smoke, I got sick to my stomach, as it did everyone else.
I believe we can reach Lolita now. She's over by the 59th Street Bridge. We had a little audio trouble earlier. Lolita.
All right, Mary and Marvin, we're having the same problem as the rest of the city using our Nextels here to get in communication. Right now, we are at the 59th Street Bridge and 2nd Avenue. Take a look across my shoulder here. This is the only way many people can get back home to their houses and their homes in Queens. Public transportation people, MTA, are telling everyone to walk down the 59th Street Bridge, take that long route back home to Queens. That is one of the only ways it's going to be possible for them to get that way. Now, trucks and cars are also traveling this route, trying to get back that way. And we were earlier at the Midtown Tunnel where people are getting across that way, but only cars that are loaded. Some cars are picking up passengers and people they don't even know in order to get the number requested to get across. Now, we did hear from the mayor earlier today, about 10 minutes ago. Subways are functioning in all 4 boroughs. All the letter lines are working out of Manhattan, but if you want to get uptown, you're going to have to take Metro North up there and then take some buses down. If you get to Grand Central Station, they will route you the correct way so that you can get both uptown and also into Jersey. Live at the 59th Street Bridge, I'm Lolita Lopez. Back to you guys in the studio.
Okay, Lolita, thank you for that report. We've been through this before, and we have those vivid images of Oklahoma City, the World Trade Center, and now this, the most heinous act ever, said the mayor.
Well, we had done a history piece a few years back of some of the other incidents that rocked New York. Nothing, of course, anywhere near what we're going through today. But February 26, 1993, I know Marvin and I were there when the World Trade Center was bombed by that Ryder rental truck that came out of Jersey City. There were Egyptian-born terrorists behind that attack. I think the vehicle was packed with about 1,500 to 2,000 pounds worth of explosives. It took the police about a week to find the terrorists. In this case,
six people were killed in that one, and we had about 1,000 people who were injured, but nothing near like this one today.
And we had other incidents that happened since then involving potential terrorist plots, people caught in Brooklyn with potential explosives going on the subway. And I have a little piece that you may want to see that gives you a little bit of background on other incidents before today.
February 26, 1993. It's the day foreign terror blasted New York into a new reality.
I never want to go through that again. I'll never go in that building. It was horrible, the feeling not getting out, not being able to get out. You felt smothered.
Within a week, the FBI had the undercarriage of the Ryder rental van that carried the bomb and its first suspect in New Jersey, a